this is gonna be his first test, so I'm turning it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And with that, we are adjourned. No, sorry. Mr. Chair, thank
Hey,
you
I'm
for
the only one that can do that, okay?
Mr. Chair, I don't believe that we had anybody actually sign. What I'd like to do is we'll just go down the table. But if you're a District 6 employee, if you'll hold off on your introductions, I'll allow Lisa to do that as part of your presentation when we get to that point. So again, my name is Trent Doolittle. I'm Deputy Secretary, and we'll just start at the end of the table with Steve.
Hi, Steve Hamilton. I'm General Counsel for the department.
Good morning, Rick Fidia, Executive Director.
Good morning, Lisa Vega, District 6 Engineer.
Good morning, I'm Paul Brasher, District 5 Engineer, that'd be the northwest part of the state.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Chris Yoska, I'm the Assistant District Engineer.
Good morning, Dustin Gibson, thanks for hosting us. I represent New Mexico District 3.
Good morning, Francisco Sanchez, District 2 Engineer, I represent Southeast part of New Mexico.
Good morning, Aaron Chavalier from the interim District 1 Engineer.
So let's go to the left side of the room. I see John.
Good morning, everyone. John Romero, Highway Operations Director.
Anybody else on that side? Trent?
Trip Hopkins, Environmental Care Manager.
Anybody else on the left side, DOT?
Daniel, Office of General Counsel.
Jerry.
Good morning, everyone. Jay Valdez, Executive Director of Special Projects.
No? Franklin? Travis? Mr. Chair, the other comment I want to make is I just want to recognize the folks on the right and our IT folks. They've been working the last couple of days getting.
They come in before us, they set everything up, they get everything going, they're a little stressed out because they can't make me look good on camera, no matter how much they try, but they try, and that's what counts, so with that,
Mr. Chair.
let me go to, we've already, but I'm just gonna let each commissioner introduce themselves.
Hello. Gary Tonjes, District 2.
Good morning. I'm so glad to be back in Gallup. I'm Hilma Chinoweth. I'm the D3 Commissioner, and District 3 is the Albuquerque area. Thank you.
Walter Adams, I'm out of District 4, and when I mentioned earlier about being from the field, I just want everybody to know that before I became a commissioner 4 years ago, I worked 42 years with DOT, and I started in construction. I started on a survey crew, and I was a AMS, and I was a employee support out of the general office, so I was here for 42 years, and I know what it is to be out there and spending Christmases out there and holidays out there, and that's why I said that from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate everybody in here and the work you do. And with that, Trent, go ahead and just introduce yourself. I mean, that you already did, but.
Good morning, Trent Doolittle, Deputy Secretary for Operations.
Good morning, I'm Tom Taylor. I'm the district, from District 5, which is the northwest corner all the way to the center and down past I-25 into Torrance, and yeah, it's a big district. Anyway, we have a lot of dents and guardrails too, that I never noticed before I was on the Transportation Commission.
Walmart than I do anywhere else. So, again, thank you guys for having us. Catherine, McKinley, and Cibola County. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we're gonna go ahead and go on to, I already did my welcoming remarks. I'm gonna turn it over to the mayor, and he can do his welcome to Gallup.
Thank you, Chairman Adams. With me is Bobby Baca. This is the McKinley County Chairman, Commission Chairman, and I'm gonna let him do his first because this is his facility. I'll let him do Gallup first, and I'll leave the city of Gallup welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commission. I want to welcome you to McKinley County. I know you appreciated what Gallup did for you last night, but this here is our facility. County.
A productive meeting for you, and comes across and you see some of the issues, and you have provided. Chairman Adams, I want to thank you because I also Department of Transportation. I came from the motor trans enforcement side. So I understand the boots on the ground. I started from the bottom and worked my way up also. So I understand that. And you guys that are on the field, on the boots on the ground, for what you guys do. I know being shorthanded is tough, and we're shorthanded everywhere, but it's these people that are dedicated to doing what they're doing that make things happen. So I get that, and I appreciate that.
We appreciate those kind remarks. Thank you.
So again, just want to welcome you to McKinley County. Anything we can do for you, please let us know.
And thank you for loaning us your facility. When we were here at our last meeting, I think it was about a year and a half ago, we were in the same facility, so we enjoy being here.
That's right.
So we thank you for letting us be here and for the work you do.
Thank you, sir. Mayor?
Well, he's a hard one to follow, let me tell you. As a welcomer, you know, and I'm supposed to welcome you to Gallup, and I'm supposed to sell you to Gallup, encourage you to go shopping and that type of stuff. But after COVID, I had to reacquaint myself with my own community. You know, I mean, we have a dance program during the summer from Memorial Day to Labor Day. Got my available that. I went to the balloon rally last year. You know, I mean, this is exciting, and this is stuff that I encourage you to, if you have time to do, come and see it. You know, we have bike trails. If you're into biking, we have the finest bike trails. We don't have trees in the way or anything. We've got rocks and bluffs and everything else that you can really enjoy. And then if you're into hiking, we have a Pyramid Peak, which will take you 1,000 feet. We're at 6,400 feet right now, and it's 7,400 when you reach the top of that. It's a little challenging, but it's good, you know.
Hey,
And I
Mayor,
encourage you.
I needed
enjoyed it.
somebody to take me out of the casino last night.
Oh, we got a casino too, you know. Anyway, like I say, reacquainted myself. Now my next step is to acquaint myself with the rest of the state. You know, I'd like to do Canyon Road in Santa Fe. I'd like to do the Balloon Fiesta in Albuquerque. Anyway, that's my spiel. And again, we appreciate everything you've done for us. I mean, we have issues in Gallup that amazes me that we've been able to get the Department of Transportation to help us with. One is specifically Nojoni. I mean, that's a road to our medical facilities, and the Department of Transportation decided they're going to help us with that. We have the railroad crossing, which we appreciate, and then of course we have Allison Crossing. So we understand what you do, and we appreciate it. You know, I mean, appreciation can't be, we can only tell you that, but we do appreciate everything that you've done for us. Now, Chairman, if you wouldn't mind, if I could make the first comment. I mean,
No, go ahead.
I didn't want the comments to come first because I didn't want to come up with a negative note and then turn around and welcome you. You know, I mean, this way we welcome you. We appreciate you being here. But as we talked about COVID, you know, I mean, everybody in this town was affected by COVID. Well, I-40, everybody in this town has been affected by I-40. I myself have been on that highway one time for 6.5 hours. The trucks are terrible. I mean, you're trying to get to a destination, then trucks take 40 miles before they can pass each other. It's ridiculous. We really need 3 lanes, or we need some connections on our frontage roads, if anything. You know, I mean, that's my comments, and I'll leave it at that. Again, thank you for coming to Gallup.
We appreciate your hospitality. Again, I said it earlier, but I want you to know that it's very, very appreciated. Thank you.
Come again.
Oh, we will. And with that, I'm going to go into public comment. Is there any other elected officials here? Okay. I'll call you up now in a sec. I just want to make sure that, so we can get you up here. And is there any other ones? Okay, so with that, going to public comment, I'd like to call up Representative Lundstrom.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and
Before you start, I just want to say how good it is to be here, and I want everybody in this room to know the fantastic job that you do, not only for the city of Gallup or the county, but also for the state of New Mexico. And you know that we were talking about this last night, Mayor. We have a local government road fund, and when I first came on as transportation chair, I sat down with Representative Lundstrom, we talked about it, and I could see her saying, hey, we had the same concern. Well, Representative Lundstrom has come up and with the legislators made a permanent local government road fund, and that is huge because that's $40 million. And that means that if funds are dried up, but we have no money, those $40 million are sitting there waiting to come and help rural and urban city entities, you name it. And that's money that's going to help you do roads that you can't do on your own. So we appreciate that fund that has been established. And again, on behalf of the commission, thanks I know you're all about infrastructure, you're all about roads, and can't thank you enough. So on behalf of the commission, thank you for being here, and thank you so very much for the work you do.
well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and certainly it's a special privilege for me. The hat I'm wearing right now is state representative. I've served in the New Mexico legislature since 2001. So when you look at the level of seniority inside the New Mexico House, I'm third. That's a long time to be a volunteer legislator, and they go to work. And that's important to me because that's what our community is about. You know, we work with our hands out here in Gallup and McKinley County. We are people that come from a rural background, and we understand what it means to go to work early and get home late, and whatever it takes to get the job done. So I am here as a state rep to talk about I-40. I did participate in one of the presentations, that the studies that are going on and what have you, and I understand that. I respect data and I respect research, but I'm also one of those people that's been stuck on I-40 for over 2 or 3 hours when it's a parking lot. And I know the staff's heard that. They've heard me talk about that in committee hearings. They've heard me talk about that with them individually, and anything I can do to help alleviate that, anything I can do to help the department, you know, I'm there. But I do think that needs special attention, and it probably needs to be all the way through the state. I know our attention has been the Arizona line to Albuquerque, but it probably needs to go the whole way, especially when we're looking at growth in truck traffic and so forth. But when I get into the presentation, I think this is public hearing time right now.
Yeah.
So I'll talk a little bit about this, and I've got my co-presenter, Evan Williams, who's the director of the Council of Governments. I see you're going to help me with that, Evan. I've got the notes right here. But anyway, but Mr. Chairman, thank you for the kind words. And as long as I'm in the New Mexico legislature, DOT will be #1.
Well, thank you for everything. And as I was telling her this morning, we're able to do projects, and like these last 3-4 years with this great downpour of money that we've gotten and the revenues and everything. It's the legislators that go and they are the ones that give us the money, and without the money, we can't do anything. So it's without the workers, we can't do anything. So I'm just happy that we're able to work together to make things happen.
Well, I'll tell you who my mentor was on this. I don't know if he's in the room. Where's Dan Silva? Where's Danny? Is he here? Anyway, he was at the breakfast. We left him in the hallway, but Dan is, he was chairman of House Transportation when I was his brand-new vice chairman in 2001. And you would talk about Mr. Infrastructure, and he was at the time the president of the National Congress of State Legislators Infrastructure Committee at that time. So boy, when you're Dan's vice chairman, you jump when he says, and it's always about we build roads, and he was involved with the Big I and other projects. But thank you, Mr.
Well,
Chairman.
thank you, and we'll be talking with you in a bit.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay. I can have you come
Good morning.
on. Welcome, welcome.
I'm already so loud. I'm Counselor Piano. I represent District 3 for the city of Gallup. So thank you so much for being here. It was lovely to meet some of you last night. I didn't get to meet all of you at the dinner, but also to the county for opening up their doors to have this meeting. I really appreciate it. I'm newly elected, as in a little over a year ago, so I'm still learning about the partnership with DOT, and so I wanted to be here to really learn more about what all you're doing and how we can partner as a city of Gallup. But I do want to echo the sentiments about the highway. I have a day job, not just city council, but a day job, and then my day job actually takes me to Santa Fe and Albuquerque quite often. And I echo that sentiments of Ms. Lundstrom that I've been stuck numerous times, missed meetings because I've been on the highway for 2-3 hours, even when I leave early. So I really do think having this be I-40 be a 3-lane highway would be so beneficial for our community. We have so many commuters, not even coming from Grants, even some people coming to work from Albuquerque to Gallup and back. So it is a huge problem that we're encountering on a daily basis with the amount of commuters for their jobs, for travel back and forth for meetings. And this is just something that I think continues to be an issue for our community and for the communities surrounding us with the reservation communities, through Grants. So I do want to echo those sentiments and to please have you guys consider that, because it is a major issue that I've experienced almost at least 2 to 3 times a month. I experience it. Lately, I will say it's been better, so that's been good at least. The second thing I wanted to bring up, and I know you guys know this, but maybe because I'm so new, I don't even really understand how this gets communicated. But I would just like to be able to have a better partnership with you all. And again, I'm new, so maybe we do have a great partnership and I just don't really know. But the potholes is a huge thing. We talked about this last night. I know you guys know, right? So that's obviously Walmart and everywhere. But I think there's a lot of miscommunication about what state roads are within the city. And so the city also gets bombarded about, oh, well, why aren't these roads being fixed? And the city isn't doing anything about it. And I think there just needs to be some sort of, and maybe I work with the communications woman that got up earlier, but I think the general public is not aware of these things. We're aware because we're in an elected officials or you're appointed, but the general person that's going to work 8 to 5 or 9 to 6 does not know about these things. And to be honest, I didn't really know until I was elected. I didn't know that. I mean, I knew certain roads, but I didn't know, 2nd Street or Boardman were state roads. So I just think there's a lot of misconception about how things get fixed, and there's a lot of misconceptions about funding and how it works. And I was talking to Jerry last night, and I think this is a huge problem where people say, oh, well, you have $1 billion, or, the city has $1 million. Can't you just fix all the roads? But it doesn't work that way, and projects are much more expensive than they realize. But that's a communication thing that we really have to work together to let the public know within our state, hey, these are the state roads, this is what we're doing to fix it. And I don't know, I travel a lot for my day job, and I see those potholes, and I hit them every day, and it is frustrating. So I would like to figure out a plan, and I know you guys have one, but maybe I'm just not aware of what we're doing statewide to really fix some of that. And I realize that you guys have much bigger issues than potholes, but for the average person that's driving to work, that is the biggest issue for them. I mean, I feel like when people say, what do you do as a city councilor? I tell them, well, I mostly explain how government works to people, and I explain how we can get potholes fixed. It just feels like the 2 main things at this point. So just kind of want to throw that out there, that that is something that I'd like to learn more about, how we can get roads fixed. And I know you're limited with your budget as well. But that and I-40 is a major concern for me as well. So, but that's pretty much it. But I do want to thank you guys for coming. I'm excited to hear District 6 update. I think Lisa's amazing, and she's been in her job for a long time. So I know District 6 does a great job. But I'm just excited to learn more about what's happening and what's going around across our state and specifically in our district. So thank you for having
Well,
us.
First of all, thank you for showing up today, and
Absolutely.
I want to thank you for your enthusiasm, and more importantly, I was an elected official when I still had hair years ago. And it's good that you're coming to meetings and finding out and learning, because that's the only way that you can work
Yes.
for your constituents and make sure that they're getting everything that they need to get. You're absolutely right in that Lisa is she's our district engineer for District 6. So if you have any questions, either her or some of her staff can answer those questions. And
Yes.
You mentioned one word that I thought was great, and that's partnerships. And that's what we're about. And that's why we're here today.
Mhm.
We're developing partnerships. And so, if Lisa and her staff can't answer, that, and you wanna go more, you can call wherever, but the main thing is that we all work together
Yes.
to make sure that, people are informed and people are educated, because even where I come from, I'm from Las Vegas, New Mexico.
Oh, yeah.
We've had roads that that were state roads, then we turned them over to the city. And so people are still they don't know. These agreements happen, and we announce them, but a lot of people don't know. So all of a sudden, they're calling us, and they're saying, well, you guys haven't fixed potholes, or you haven't fixed this, or you haven't striped it. And it's like it belongs to the city now. Or they'll call the city, not knowing. And so these are things that can be worked on, but we're always entering into road agreements. And sometimes we give up some of our roads, our county roads, our city roads, and their exchanges. So all of a sudden, the city takes care of what people don't know.
Yeah.
And like where we're at up there in Vegas, we have a state road on Grand Avenue and a state road, but we gave up a road that connects the two at the end. But when our guys are going through there, they put down their plows anyway, because they gotta get to the other side, so why not put down the plow or stuff? And that's how we partner, and that's how we help each other out, so. At any time, feel free, Lisa's the greatest, and she'll sit down with you, and whatever information you're seeking, her staff can take care of that, so.
Oh, Chairman, I have certainly already reached out to Lisa.
Okay.
And she has answered me, so.
So thank you for being here, we
Yes.
appreciate it, and continue to have that enthusiasm and
Thank
do what
you.
you do.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and I thank you for all of you do. And I did want to mention, I don't know if any other city councilors are here, but my predecessor, Mr. Yogesh Kumar, is actually here. He represented District 3 for quite some time before I took office, so I did want to mention that he's here as well. And thank you again for being here and for all the work you do. And I do look forward to more partnership and learning more, so thank you
got it.
again.
Thank you. With that, is there anyone else that would like to come up on public comment? Come on up.
Welcome, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Brian Jones. I'm with the Asphalt Pavement Association. And I wanted to bring a couple of things to attention. I attended my first Highway Commission meeting in the spring of 1980. I was just about this big.
I was already working.
And the commission meeting was attended by the commissioners, some highway folks, the DEs and staff, and that was about it. We were asked, I was with another gentleman, why we were there at an open forum like that. And we said we wanted to know what was going on. And we were asked, by a high-ranking staff member, so. And then we showed up again. And after the third time, they didn't ask us anymore, and they kind of accepted us. But what a change since then to now, where you've got so many people here. These people weren't there before. I mean, of course, granted, it was a long time ago. But you've done a great job in bringing out these type of things. We also, way back when, had roundtables that we put on in conjunction with the FHWA to do some training and gripe sessions. So we were broken into tables, and it had private industry, highway people, FHWA, and we talked about things that needed to be changed. We brought them together, and all of a sudden, the highway department started doing it. So those were some changes. We're going to do something similar to that next week. We are putting on, in association with ACNM, we do a lot of training sessions, but this time we're going to put on a forum where the staff is going to be there, FHWA, and we're going to talk about issues. We're not going to be complaining. We're going to talk about what's good, what's bad, what we can do to better, how we can all work better together. And that's the first time we've done that a lot, in a long, long time. My organization puts on trainings that we do have about 50, 60 people come to. ACNM does the same thing, but this is going to be just the hierarchy, and we hope to have good things come out of it. So if you haven't signed up to come, I hope you can come. And that is it.
Difference here, and any input or anything, we always appreciate it coming from you.
Thank you.
And thank you for your kind words. Okay, anybody else under public comment? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay, so with that,
Mr. Chair?
yes,
I'm
go
going to
ahead,
make a
Commissioner.
comment. You know, this has been a very unusual year where we've had a lot of moisture, a lot of freezing and thawing, so we've just had a very unique situation with potholes that are repaired and come back almost immediately. And I hope people appreciate the fact that it's,
we can only do a temporary fix because we come out of a storm and we just fix it in order to get through, and then we get another storm, and here it comes apart again. And now in the spring and in the summer, this gives us a chance to get out there and do more corrective work. In some areas, we have what we call contract maintenance, where our crews will go out there and they'll ready it, and then we have a contractor coming in and doing some work. So there's different remedies. But the potholes during the winter seasons, they're just hard to keep up with, even on the approaches of bridges, and on the departures. There's areas there where that water seeps in, and then we go and we repair it, and 2 weeks later, here we are again. So, thank you for your patience on that. Yes.
Excuse me, if I could, among the many things I need to learn, there are a lot of acronyms, and so Mr. Jones mentioned HFWA, and I don't know what that is.
Oh, FHWA?
That's HFWA.
Yeah. FH, yeah, Federal Highways Administration.
Commissioner will provide you with a cheat sheet next week.
No, that's a good question. And actually, we have a representative that sits here from FHWA. She's not here today. So, but she usually comes and gives us a report, and just for most of the projects that we do, especially on interstates, especially the work that we're doing out here on I-40, that's all in conjunction with FHWA, because we need those federal funds in order to do these projects, because these are huge projects. So with that, do we have anybody else under public comment? Okay, we're now gonna move on to number 8, Transportation, Economic Development, and Once-in-a-Generation Funding. Representative Lundstrom.
It was not that long ago when, well, actually, it was a couple of years ago when I came in front of the commission and I asked them to have confidence in what we were trying to do out here in Gallup and McKinley County, and you did. I remember that this commission, led by Commissioner Adams, agreed that they would work with us and partner with us when it came to the development of our mobility district. And then it was, what, Evan, about 6 months ago when you made the presentation to the commission on where we were going and what we would like to do. So now we're here to give an update. So myself and Evan Williams, the director of the Council of Governments, will present today. Just who we are, the group that sponsored your breakfast today, Greater Gallup Economic Development Corporation. We're a 501c3. We service the City of Gallup area, McKinley County. We have 8 board members, and it's all private sector. So in our case with GGEDC, it's private sector driven and government enabled. We have a professional staff with 2 of the economic developers in my office are certified economic developers, and that'll mean something to Gary. And then we have one that's third. So for a small operation like us, that's big. When there's 1,100 in the entire country that are certified, we may have 3 in our office, and then we have 1 with the Council of Governments, and that's the Director, Evan. So in a small town like Gallup, we're pretty proud of that. What we want to do is talk about a little bit in terms of the convergence of opportunity. We have been working on various megatrends leading to the transportation paradigm first, and you all are familiar with our autonomous work and mobility. Autonomous is now on us. There's been testing happening outside of the Albuquerque area and on I-40 now. And what we are doing is looking more at how we can take advantage of that particular industry with autonomous testing out here in McKinley County. When we think about things like decarbonization, and I've had to learn a lot about that with the decommissioning of a coal-fired power plant not too far from here. We've had to learn about what decarbonization means, and when I talked to a group last week, I said, well, think about these big four-wheel drive trucks that are now running on diesel, and think about those same people driving a smart car. You know, it seems to be moving in that direction, because what we're talking about is removing emissions from the environment. We're all familiar with supply chain disruption and what that means, and that ties back primarily to our pandemic issue. I mean, there's times when we just can't get the construction materials. We've seen what's happened with inflation. We understand what happens with timelines, and you'll learn about this, Gary. Anytime we have to extend the timeline for any of these construction projects, the price really goes up, if we can even get the materials. Alternative fueling, you'll hear about that also in this presentation. Our office, as well as the county in particular, is interested in the development of hydrogen. Hydrogen is a new fuel source that we think will replace the coal-fired power plant in terms of generation of electricity. You're all familiar with the FAST Act. The FAST Act is the federal act that is the 11-hour rule. Is that the 11-hour rule for truck drivers, where now things are monitored through GPS or your iPhone, and is no longer a paper log. What's important about that is where Gallup is positioned on I-40 from the Port of Long Beach. The Energy Transition Act is a bill that the legislature passed a few years ago, which sets our emission standards, which kind of drives all the alternative fuel, decarbonization, the use for autonomous vehicles. And then in this state, as well as 3 other states, we've applied for a federal hydrogen hub. Myself and Commissioner Baca and County Manager Demas were just in Houston. We flew in last night. We attended the World Hydrogen meeting, got an update from the companies that are looking at buying the Escalante plant, as well as the status of the federal hydrogen hub for the state of New Mexico. I can tell you McKinley County and San Juan County rank pretty high in that process. So, as we had talked about a couple of months ago when Evan made the presentation to you, he said, what is happening in the future? Well, the future is now here. So we're leveraging existing transportation assets in terms of future development because we know who we are and we know who we aren't. And when you look at Gallup and you look at McKinley County, we're all about transportation assets. We've got I-40, we've got BNSF, we've got 491 and 602. So when you look at the city of Gallup and where it is logistically, it's in a perfect location. You know, it's not anything that I did or anybody in this room did, it just happens to be where we are. So we leverage transportation assets when we're looking at economic development. We're also looking at investing in those future assets in what makes that connection for growth. Connecting assets and investments to the private sector driven by economic development. As I said, it's driven by the private sector and it's enabled by the government. In our case in particular, we don't have that kind of government influence on the kinds of things that we're working on. And turning planning work up to 11 times with DOT support. You were talking, Mr. Chairman, about partnerships. You couldn't have a better partnership between this community, our local people, our organization, city, county, COG, and you. Of all the agencies in the state, the one that we have the closest working relationship by far is DOT. So this is a depiction of the Gallup Mobility District. You can see where the city is, and then to the immediate west, you'll see 491. That's probably the route Tom drove when he came down from Farmington. It's either 491 or 371. The 491, for those who don't know, that's the old 666 road. And a few years ago, I think maybe because people were spooked by having the 3 6s, it was changed to 491. No, actually it was because of the connection into Colorado. They wanted to have numbers that made sense between the different states. So we're talking about the transportation corridor from north to south. And then the investment of Carbon Coal Road. The state of New Mexico put over $30 million into that road. That feeds into an energy logistics park where we have rail service. So when you look at the commercial vehicle testing complex, you can see the red square there. That is the area that we're looking at. It's under study now with consultants. And then the commercial vehicle research complex is also under study now because what we're understanding is wherever you test, that's where the R&D will come. When you're testing, and I'm just using this because I don't have a better example, wheel falls off, we want to know why in real time. So you want your scientists, you want your developers there trying to figure that out. And then if you look to the south, you'll see BNSF there. We do have a certified site there where the loop is. That means that at that site we can take national account holders at that site. And then the Super Center, which is a response to the FAST Act, we've developed the concept of a mega truck stop that can take over 1,000 trucks with secure parking. It's actually the development of a mini city that supports that. Because as our staff interviewed over 300 truckers, they want things like a place to get their fingernails done. They want to be able to get their hair done. They want to walk their dog. They want to have, a decent meal. No more chicken fried steak and white gravy. What they want to have is an opportunity to exercise, things like that, because the average trucker in the United States now is 57 years old. And so to get a millennial interested in that profession, you've got to offer more. Also, we're very proud, and I think you all know this, we now have passenger service out at Gallup. We haven't had that in 15 years. So there's now passenger service, you can jump on Advanced Air from Gallup and go to Phoenix, and from Phoenix you can go anywhere in the world. So we are in the process, working very closely with the city of Gallup on a foreign trade zone, which is important for the kinds of companies that we're looking at attracting now. We have a steel manufacturer that is very interested in coming into our area, and because of the kinds of chemicals and supplies that they use, and it comes from outside of the country, the FTZ is important. And of course, looking at electric and hydrogen fuel sources. The Pruitt Industrial Park is just east of here. You had to drive by there if you came on I-40. The Pruitt Industrial Park is where we have the retired Escalante power plant. As I mentioned, the commissioner and I and the county manager were in Houston talking to the company that's looking at the conversion for that to hydrogen. I was the person who carried the governor's bill on hydrogen energy. We got beat up around the head and shoulders, and the bill didn't go anywhere, but the governor, she passed an executive order that put hydrogen at the top of her energy alternatives, because we all know that you're not going to go in and just flip a switch from fossil fuel to an alternative energy. You need a step-down transformer, and we think hydrogen is one of those fuels. So this is just a depiction of the industrial park. Currently, the county has a contract with the state land office to look at the development of an industrial park that's adjacent to the Escalante power plant. There's a master plan underway now, and the idea is to develop that industrial park around offtake, and that are companies that need heat-based sources. We are working very closely now with McKinley Paper, who's out there. They're a paper maker that is connected to that area inside that cluster, and we're asking them to serve as a demonstration for us with hydrogen. So we asked you in September, that was September 2022. I didn't ask this, you did, right, Evan? Evan asked for this, and these were the transportation needs that we saw in order to get this corridor up and running. The commercial vehicle testing complex, the vehicle development complex, the electric hydrogen stations, foreign trade zone, user fee airport, I-40 interchange planning, and the truck stop. This is what we asked for. And New Mexico DOT has put that much money, or is it the next slide? That's close to what's gone in there so far. So planning and design support and awarded since 2012. For our autonomous test track, it's been $1 million. For the supply chain accelerator, it's been $1 million. For hydrogen fueling stations, it's been $1 million. For the foreign trade user fee airport, it's been $1 million. And then the I-40 interchange planning has been $14.6 million. So you all need to be congratulated for the amount of money that you've put into our ideas out here and in working with your staff. I know Jerry and the team there has been very helpful in trying to make sure that these things work. I know that the lead for the autonomous test track and supply chain, I believe hydrogen is with the county. Is that right, Jerry? The county is the lead, and you guys are going to serve as like the chair for that, because what we're trying to do is build that relationship with the state of California. When it comes to the supply chain piece, we want to make sure that we're reaching out and we're working with the appropriate people there in California. Then, of course, the I-40 interchange planning is all on you guys. That's your responsibility with the interstates. So this is what we think what we're going to need as we're continuing on. And you've heard this, the Interstate 40 third lane expansion. We've had the different companies looking at the testing and how they would use 40 for autonomous use. But you can't do that if you're sitting basically in a parking lot. And that has happened. It's nobody's fault, it's just the way it is. I mean, when you think about the amount of traffic, and the last number I looked at is 7,000 trucks a day pass through this area. That's a lot of truck traffic. We're also looking at the Allison corridor that helps feed into the Gallup mobility area. We are still looking at that $40 million, but that is based on a Department of Transportation study, so it's probably changed, and I think we can look at federal funding to help us with that. State of New Mexico DOT outreach with the State of California to the Port of LA. This is all about the alternative energy corridor of I-40 designated by the feds. If we can look at demonstration projects like hydrogen, because the number one source of bad emissions are trucks. So if we can figure out a way where we're using autonomous vehicles that are hydrogen or electric based, and they have fill-up stations, so to speak, here in Gallup or Escalante, Albuquerque, and so forth. The Department of Environment has told me they have a way of measuring that. In other words, they can tell you how much emission comes out of a truck, and if we change the fuel source, how much we're actually helping with the environment. So we've got a big job ahead of us with that outreach, and we're going to need the chairman's leadership and the governor with the state of California. I'll tell you, we got some big plans. I don't know how else to say it, but those who have worked it with me, and Tom's one of those, knows that we don't let any grass grow when we're out there looking at projects. So the Supply Chain Accelerator Committee would be headed by NMDOT. We also are looking at US 491 and 371, as well as Carbon Coal Road. I know there are tough road conditions on 371, that north-south corridor, also out of San Juan County into I-40. We need some I-40 interchange planning, and that's actually in Cibola County. That's at Baca School and Milan, New Mexico, because we think this Escalante power plant is going to explode once we get the hydrogen production there, but they're undersized for the number of trucks that would be going through there. The autonomous corridor designation, we're looking at that because we're already an alternative fuels designated corridor on I-40. And then the RAISE grant for rural air passenger service, that's a big deal now for us. We want to make sure that whoever's running that budget up at the state make sure that that money is in there for rural air service. There is a lot of company and business development that happens around airports. And with that, what did I forget, Evan? Yeah, you've got a younger brain. Get up here. If I forgot anything, jump up here. Okay, then you get up and answer the questions there. Thank you. So we're ready for questions. Come on up, Mr. Chairman. Yes. Yeah, Gallup is the gateway, so.
Commissioner Chenoweth.
Chairman Adams, thank you. Representative Lundstrom, I just want to commend you on, as Walter said, thinking big, having big ideas, and leading us in New Mexico in a way that I think is visionary for the entire state. What you're doing in Gallup, it's very exciting, and however we can participate in that, I'm certainly glad to do that, but I really appreciate what you and your staff are doing for the state of New Mexico in general. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, Representative. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here and to hear some of that issue with absolutely big ideas and you to be applauded. One of the things that I prefer to take notes here, people talking up, coming up, and then hearing what you said with regard to Interstate 40, as you're working with prospective customers
Yeah, a good example, thank you for the question. A good example is out in the Pruitt cluster area. We have a paper maker out there. So he relies on trucking of waste paper to come into his facility. It's broken down and it's reconstituted into cardboard-type paper that they use for making boxes. So what he's talked to us about now is he says, you know, with all the disruptions on 40, I need a warehouse. I got to find a place to store all this paper, because we can't count on a reliable delivery process of the paper that they need to break down to make boxes. So now we're in the thick of trying to figure out how we're going to do a warehouse. But I think that there's also been disruption when it comes to chemical supplies for rhino glove manufacturing. You know, their stuff comes from, I believe it comes from Malaysia. So when it comes in, it's at the port, stuck at the port, and then it's trucked in. But those delays, as you know, cost money. They cost a lot of money to those companies that have a contract to provide so many gloves to different suppliers, and they can't get the product. I know that our Walmart here is designated a high-volume Walmart. It's only one of two in the entire state. The other one's in Hobbs. And a lot of times you can walk down the aisles. I know I'm in there buying dog food all the time, and a lot of empty shelves. So they've been looking for warehousing also. In the day, we didn't have to do that because the trucks were on time in a timely manner. But there's a lot of reasons for that. You know, our interstate system is a lot to maintain. That's the contract that DOT has with the feds. You guys are contracted to help with that, make it happen. The state of New Mexico provides half the money. You get federal money and you get state money to make sure those interstates are open and running. But then there's things that happen that are outside of your control. And unfortunately, that's when we get jammed up, when you live on 40. And it's not only for supply chain issues, autonomous testing, it's also health issues. You know, it costs, I think it's $60,000 to get airlifted from this hospital to Albuquerque. And, oh yeah, it's not cheap to be airlifted. So you're gonna have, you know, it's not like an ambulance. You're gonna get it, or have a family member put in an ambulance to be taken into Albuquerque if you're gonna be stuck on I-40. So there's a lot of things around that. And I know that there's been a lot of efforts to improve the frontage roads. That's also been important. You know, when I was growing up, the frontage road was the main road. That's Old 66. That's how my family used to come to Gallup to go to what is now Louis' business, the Chief Theater, and watch movies when we were a kid, or come to the ceremonial parades, that kind of stuff. But now it's those roads have been not maintained because we haven't had the money. So we've put money into the budget, as the chairman said, to try to help the locals when we have money, because it's a darn good source. And there's no better economic development driver than infrastructure when it comes to getting, you know, people jobs. That we've had a number of companies that have raised the issue about, we guess we need warehousing now. We've got to build a warehouse. You're welcome.
And Commissioner, just so that you know, is that both interstates have a lot of traffic, but I-40 has more truck traffic, maybe double or triple what I-25 has. And so these guys will tell you out here when they're out there and they're doing any work out on the interstate and they throw down a closure of a lane or whatever, you have these semis still shooting by at a high rate of speed. It's pretty eerie to be out there, you know, when and you saw by your trip in here the amount of truck traffic there is, and so any delays are massive. And on I-25, we don't experience that amount of truck traffic. So you got I-25 and I-40, but I-40 takes the bulk of everything.
It's a major corridor. It's the gateway into the state. And so you come in from Arizona and boom, you hit that. And if you don't know the back roads, like going down 602 through Zuni to get back around or whatever, could be stuck there for a long time.
And the frontage roads are very important. I mean,
Yes.
because if there is a delay, they can get you up on a frontage road and they can at least get you to a place where you can get back on the interstate.
Exactly, that's
further on.
right.
And frontage roads, again, we maintain those. We don't get any federal money for frontage roads, right, Trent? That's all pretty much state money.
So we do get some if they're designated as a frontage loop or frontage designation, so that is part of the federal calculation.
But the majority of them are maintained by, with state money and state crews.
And Mr. Chair, the pie doesn't get any bigger, so ultimately you're using the same amount of money to increase and maintain additional lane miles.
So what we're hoping is that with a good result of the alternative fuels corridor, we'll be able to get DOE money in there for repair. There's a whole bunch of different funding sources that we think we can apply for. But if we can show that there's some demonstration, reducing carbon emissions, that kind of thing, we want to work with DOT and the Department of Environment to access those DOE dollars.
Any other questions, commissioners? Anyone?
Thank you, sir.
Again, Representative, thank you for all you do. Thank you for your hard work. And thank you for your partnership, and continue to do what you do. Take us forward.
All righty, thank you very much, Commissioner, and again, welcome to Gallup.
Thank you. With that, I am going to move on to number 9, Mr. Plaza. How you doing? How's everything? Come on down. How you been?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. I'm Garrett Beneclausen. I'm the Conservation Director for New Mexico Wild. We are a state-based conservation organization that focuses on wildlife watersheds across the state, especially on public lands. We're going to give you a presentation today. I am part of the New Mexico Wildlife Transportation Alliance, which is an alliance of NGOs like myself and the National Wildlife Federation. One of my co-presenters, Jeremy Romero, is the Regional Connectivity Coordinator for the National Wildlife Federation. Of course, Jim from DOT, District 4 Environment Analyst. I just want to start the conversation by putting some context to the conversation that we're going to present to you. 2 winters ago, just south of Taos, I'm driving to Santa Fe at night, and there's a cow elk right in front of my car. I'm going 70 miles an hour, right? And this is typical, right? I'm sure everybody in the room has shared this experience. I missed the cow elk. Her calf is right next to her. I hit the calf, going really fast. And luckily, the calf bounces off the door frame. The elk is killed immediately. There's a big 4-wheel drive truck right behind me. He goes to pass me because he doesn't know what's going on. He T-bones this calf elk, almost flips his car into oncoming traffic, right? And this is a situation I suspect everybody in the room experiences in this state. In this context, roughly 12,000 crashes are reported to New Mexico law enforcement every year in New Mexico. It costs drivers in the state nearly $20 million in property damage. It's a big problem. Public safety. Also, our wildlife has cultural values, economic values. I'm a hunter. Obviously, this is a big problem. And so we formed this Wildlife Transportation Alliance to address these problems. We just want to shed light on it to the commission. And our alliance, and especially the members of our alliance, do a lot of advocacy work within the state legislative arena as well as the federal legislative arena. And so we're just here to help and be a support. I'm going to hand this over first to Jim, and we just want to enlighten the commission and members of the audience on what's being done about wildlife corridors and wildlife collisions. And thanks again for the opportunity to present.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Garrett. Yes, so anyways, my name is, once again, my name is Jim Hirsch. I'm with the Environmental Bureau of New Mexico Department of Transportation. Been with the department for about 10 years. The wildlife coordinator for NMDOT. I'm also covering environmental issues for District 4. So, anyways, prior to working for NMDOT, I did work for New Mexico Department of Game and Fish. And then prior to that, I lived up in Oregon and worked for a private utility company and various public agencies up in that state. So, anyways, what I plan to do is just talk a little bit about New Mexico Wildlife Corridors Action Plan and touch on kind of an implementation strategy, kind of a short-term implementation strategy. So, let me just see here. There we go. All right. Anyways, in 2019, Senate Bill 228 was signed by the governor, and this legislation directed NMDOT and New Mexico Game and Fish to work together to develop a statewide wildlife corridors action plan. This plan was finalized in June of 2022 and involved extensive public input, and it had the support of many non-government organizations. I do want to point out the pictures in my presentation were taken by game cameras that were mounted on under NMDOT roads and drainage structures. So the plan identified 60 wildlife vehicle collision hotspots statewide, and it prioritized 5 hotspots based on the number of wildlife vehicle collisions, constructability issues, adjacent land ownership, and agency and public support. The top priority area is located on US 550 just north of Cuba. The plan also identified 6 wildlife corridors statewide. These areas, these are like basically big game species are known to frequently cross these road segments, or more commonly, these road segments have such high traffic volumes that they impede critical wildlife movements in these particular areas. So last year we had $2 million earmarked by the legislative budget into the NMDOT budget, and it's currently available for planning and design of these wildlife crossing projects. This year, the state legislature established the Wildlife Corridors Fund through Senate Bill 72, and it contains $5 million, which would be available after July 1st. So we are currently working with an engineering consulting firm in developing a draft scoping report for our top hotspot area, which is US 550 north of Cuba. And like I said, that's our top wildlife area. This is a rendering of a wildlife overpass, and if we do build something like this, this will be the first in the state of New Mexico. So the draft scoping report currently identifies 4 construction phases. This hotspot area is about 15 miles long, so we certainly can't build it all at once. And so each of the phases has a number of wildlife crossing structures. But basically, a thing that makes this in terms of constructability is the land ownership adjacent to this road segment consists mostly of BLM, Forest Service, and Hickory Apache Nation lands. So the 4 construction phases, at this point in time, they range in cost from $11 million to about $22 million. These are just very rough figures at this point in time. These phases include construction of 8-foot-high, tall, woven wire fencing, along with 1 to 2 wildlife crossing structures. The 8-foot fencing prevents deer, elk, and other wildlife from entering the roadway, but they also guide the animals to safely cross the roadway through these crossing structures. So last month in April, in collaboration with the New Mexico Safe Passage Coalition, we applied for a National Fish and Wildlife Foundation grant. And the grant would, well, the application is still pending. We probably won't hear till later on this year whether we were awarded the grant or not. But basically, the grant would help basically facilitate coalition meetings that Garrett is going to talk more about, and then assist NMDOT with public involvement and support for these wildlife crossing projects. In addition, we plan to use about $7 million or a little bit less for the design of phases 1 and 2 of that US 550 Cuba hotspot area. Next year, we would like to request about $27 million for the construction of phase 1 of the US 550 project, and another $5 million for the construction of phase 2. And you're wondering, well, why such a low amount for phase 2? The $5 million, what we hope to do is the $5 million we would like to use as match for a grant application with the recently formed Wildlife Crossings pilot program. And that came out of the bipartisan infrastructure bill. So, but keep in mind, these are just very rough numbers, and so, you know, don't take them as solid numbers. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Garrett, and he's going to talk more about Senate Bill 72 and the coalition. Thank you.
Thank you for your attendance here. I see you in the hallway.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Senate Bill 72, again, was passed in this last legislative session. We had hoped, of course, like many funds, to get up to $50 million in this fund because these projects are so incredibly costly. But we were happy to get the $5 million that was allocated for it. If there's anything that you all can do, and it's great to see Representative Lundstrom in the room, it's to advocate for more money in the fund. And so one of the main reasons we're presenting to you today is so that you would help us do that advocacy work as we go into the interim session and as we start to talk about the budget for next year for DOT. And so, you know, the $5 million is a great start, but as Jim had mentioned, these projects are incredibly costly. And we would love to see the amount in that fund, you know, really get increased as much as possible. And so, again, we have this permanent fund established, and really in the next legislative session, which, as you all know, is a budgetary session, we are going to be pushing for raising that amount of money. And again, it's really, really important that DOT's legislative advocacy work within their presentations, both in interim and within committee hearings, as the budget's being formed, that this specific topic within the greater budget of DOT is mentioned. And if you ever need any materials or if you need any support, we and other organizations are happy to help give presentations, co-presentations to help advocate for you. And obviously, there's a lot of federal money, which Jeremy's going to talk about, which is match money, which is a really great opportunity for the state. So that's Senate Bill 72 in a nutshell. If anyone has any questions regarding Senate Bill 72 or the continued work that we're going to do, happy to answer those questions. The sponsor of the bill is Senator Stewart. And so, and then I just want to talk real quickly about New Mexico, the coalition itself. The mission of the Safe Passage Coalition is to provide safe passage for wildlife and motorists in New Mexico by creating an inclusive agency and stakeholder forum to help advance the wildlife vehicle collision mitigation projects identified in the Wildlife Corridors Action Plan. and additional projects that will help fulfill the spirit and intent of the New Mexico Wildlife Corridors Act. We do want to go around the state, and I'm really glad that we're here in Gallup to talk about this, because everywhere we go, people have experiences like me, and we want to identify more locations where these problems are having, that we're having these problems. And so part of the role of the coalition itself is to go around the state and gather more information and help the agencies identify future projects. But obviously we have 11 projects that are kind of priorities projects. And again, when we're talking about the amount of money that is involved in finalizing these projects, it's an enormous amount of money. So, and sorry about the gruesome photo, but this is a reality that we face in New Mexico all the time. Just sort of the vision, it's this collaboration effort to improve human safety while integrating wildlife movements in New Mexico's transportation system. And we're kind of focusing on institutionalizing wildlife considerations, building partnerships and awareness to protect wildlife movements, and to promote highway permeability. And so obviously this is about human safety, but also about making sure that our wildlife stay healthy. And obviously, especially these big game species need a lot of habitat and move from water sources and breeding sources. And so trying to kind of look at this from a holistic standpoint is a really important thing. And we urged everyone in the community to come to us with information and advice because we want to make this project as productive as possible. And then these are some of the partners in the coalition, but we want to grow the coalition, right? Tribal partners, land grants, land grant community. We want to grow this coalition to make it as big and robust as possible. So, and Jeremy from New Mexico Wildlife, National Wildlife Federation is going to continue with the presentation.
Mr. Chair, I have a question. Yes, go ahead. You know, what if I'm got a lot of sheep and I'm a sheeper and my sheep crosses back and forth over these bridges? What happens?
Yeah, absolutely, Commissioner. I mean, the intent is to allow safe passage for wildlife, but the practical useness of those wildlife crossings can also be utilized for other purposes as well. Especially if you own land on both sides of the highway where that wildlife crossing project will be constructed, you will have the ability to move your wildlife and not prevent or propose a hazard on the roadway for motorists. Well, thanks, Garrett. I want to talk to you guys now about the Wildlife Crossings Pilot Program. Wildlife Crossings Pilot Program is a competitive grant cycle issued by the Federal Highways Administration. The intent behind the Wildlife Crossings Pilot Program is to be a competitive grant program that reduces wildlife vehicle collisions and increase habitat connectivity for both terrestrial and aquatic species. Now, this was passed in November of 2021. It was passed under the bipartisan infrastructure law and authorizes approximately $350 million over 5 years to be utilized in this Wildlife Crossings Pilot Program. And this program will be administered through the Federal Highways Administration. So just a quick overview of the Federal Highways Wildlife Crossings Pilot Program. The estimated total funding for this grant cycle is approximately $112 million. Now, this is a combination of both fiscal year 2022 and 2023 funding. And the reason behind that is initially the funding was supposed to be dispersed last year, but the program was just getting the foundation created and they didn't have the capacity to start distributing those funds. So they lump summed both FY22 and FY23 funding into one grant cycle for this year. Federal Highways Administration anticipates awarding approximately 15 to 50 grants. Those grants will range from approximately $200,000 to $20 million. The cost share is 1 to 4, so 20% non-federal and 80% federal to the total project cost. Examples of where federal funds can be used as a non-federal source are programs such as the federal transportation grants and tribal transportation grants. 60% of all available funds that are successful that applicants are successful in being awarded will be distributed to rural communities, and the proposal deadline for this pilot program is August 1st of this year. So the $350 million or the $112 million for this year would be allocated to really two project categories. Those are both non-construction and construction. So non-construction projects consist of research on safety innovations to reduce wildlife vehicle collisions, research and monitoring on effectiveness of wildlife vehicle collisions and mitigation, development of mapping tools to document wildlife vehicle collisions, very much similar to the Wildlife Corridors Action Plan that DOT and others compiled in the last few years, analysis of impacts of wildlife vehicle collisions and best practices to reduce those, planning studies to identify terrestrial and aquatic wildlife migration corridors and roadway barriers to habitat that lead to wildlife vehicle collisions, tracking wildlife and mapping wildlife vehicle collisions, and outreach activities to help educate the public on the importance and hazards of wildlife vehicle collisions and wildlife crossing structures. Types of construction projects. So these projects consist of design and pre-construction of an underpass and overpass for wildlife passage, environmental permitting and right-of-way acquisition to construct a wildlife crossing structure, adaptation or replacement of a culvert or a bridge structure to accommodate connectivity for terrestrial species that are experiencing wildlife vehicle collisions, construction of a wildlife overpass or underpass and fencing, preservation or restoration of habitat necessary to secure the effectiveness of a crossing project, and finally, construction of an actual crossing structure in an area to connect habitat for terrestrial or aquatic species. So eligible applicants, for the Wildlife Crossing Pilot Program are State Department of Transportation agencies, municipal planning organizations, units of local government, regional transportation authorities, special purpose districts or public authority with a transportation function, a tribe, or a federal land management agency. Now, eligible partners are those who can receive funding from the federal applicant to enact or implement that project. Are, again, MPOs, units of local governments, regional transportation authorities, a special purpose district or public authority with a transportation function, an Indian tribe, a federal land management agency, a foundation, nonprofit, or an institution of higher education, and finally, a federal, tribal, regional, or state government entity. And this right here is just a list of all of the other federal funding opportunities that were authorized under the bipartisan infrastructure law. Now, I apologize for the small print there, but that's just to illustrate how many opportunities are out there. Now, the Wildlife Crossings Pilot Program is approximately $350 million, but as you'll see here, those are billion-dollar programs. And those programs can be leveraged for state projects that can help also assist the funding needs for wildlife crossing projects for both terrestrial and aquatic species. Now, before we get into questions, the one thing, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, I want to acknowledge is just the tremendous amount of work and effort Department of Transportation and Department of Game and Fish have invested into accomplishing both past, current, and future projects. It's as Jim and Garrett referenced, it's a tremendous amount of work and also a tremendous amount of money to accomplish these projects. And without these partnerships with Game and Fish and Department of Transportation, as well as the New Mexico Wildlife Transportation Alliance, a lot of these projects wouldn't be possible. And so as members of the New Mexico Wildlife Transportation Alliance and also engaged members of the public, we're really looking forward to the opportunity to continue our work with the Department of Transportation and the partnership and the alliance to strengthen these partnerships and really pursue and identify the types of funding that are needed to accomplish these projects. So with that, we open it up for questions.
Chairman Adams, I do. Thank you. I don't know which of you can answer this question. You have estimates for the projects. Do you have estimates for the costs of the current vehicle crashes, the medical, just the cost of what the current situation is? Annually, you talked about the number of crashes and victims, that sort of thing. I would just like to know if there's any approximation of what that's costing us. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, at least in the US 550 Wildlife Crossing project, the scoping report is going to include a benefit cost analysis where it does document, the cost of these various crashes in terms of medical and real property property damage and that sort of thing. I don't have the figures exactly at this point in time, but it would be in the scoping report.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, the latest data that we have, it's roughly $1,200, or 1,200 crashes that are reported to law enforcement, and again, that $20 million in property damage annually, and so that just continues to go up.
Thank you guys for the presentation, I appreciate it. That's where you gather your data from law enforcement as far as crashes, and there's a category that maybe you get wildlife or this is the family, and you get it, or how did you gather your data? All of it, so.
Yeah, the most consistent data is actually via police reports.
South of Cuba, there's a project in there that's been there for quite some time. I'm curious as to the cost and that program was. I think you used basically existing bridges, put animals underneath, but do you have any statistics on the effectiveness of that over the, I don't know, it's been, what, 7 or 8 years, 10? I'm not sure.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Taylor, that particular project, I'm trying to recall the cost. I think it was in the neighborhood of like $3 million or so, and that involved game fence, the 8-foot high game fence that you see, some escape ramps, electrified barriers, and double cattle guards. It has reduced wildlife vehicle collisions. We know that basically from the local patrol yard supervisor and the crash data as well. I don't know, how much more. I can't give you exact figures at this point in time. But just as an added information, we've got an agreement with Arizona Department of Game and Fish, and they are doing wildlife passage research on that particular project and other projects around the state. And so we've got a interim report that's out, and then they plan to pull out a final report in a few years.
Great, it would be interesting to see the statistics on the actual effectiveness of it over that period.
Thank you.
Any other questions for all commissioners?
Just real quickly, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, we're happy to compile a bunch of data for you and get it, we'll pass it on to all of you to give you some more stuff to look at. I also want to mention that elk don't like to go under highways. They don't like to go into holes. So antelope and elk almost always have to go over a highway or they won't cross. Bighorn sheep and mule deer and other species will go under the highway. So that's why sometimes you have to do an overpass.
No other questions, we want to thank you for the presentation. Thank you for being here. We take this very, very seriously as a commission. We'll work with our partner up. As I say, there are all these projects, good partnerships, and we take it very seriously. They're worse than others, but it can happen at any time.
Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, we thank you for your time.
Thanks for your time. Take care.
Here. I'd like to, as you can see, I brought some backup. So I'd like to take some time to actually introduce my staff. Yes. So I'd like to start off with maintenance. Our Assistant District Engineer for Maintenance is Michael Vigil. Mike, if you could introduce your staff.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Mike Hill. I'm the Assistant District Engineer
Denise, if it's right with you, just have them all they can all introduce themselves, and we'll just start there, and we'll come all the way around.
Okay, that'll work. So I guess we'll start with Jenny, my administrative assistant. Go ahead. And which project office?
David Gonzalez, I'm project manager with Project Office 1. Morning, Robert Harvey, project manager, Project Office 1. Good morning, everyone. It's Tommy Chavez. I'm with the District 6 Lab, actually District 6 Lab Supervisor. Jason Carlson, District 6 Lab. Reference Animal, Project Office 2, Division Type 1. Cameron Simpson. Figueroa, ET1, Wayne Escobar, I'm a tech supervisor from Milan Public Office 2. Good morning, Randy Lopez, Surveying Recreational State, Milan Public Office 2.
Stephanie?
Good morning, I'm Stephanie Carter. I am the acting project manager for District 6. I'm Alta Labato, the business manager for District 6. And we have Melvin back here too.
Melvin Graves, the supervisor of Graves School.
Okay, Robin?
Good morning, Robin Eves, District 6 management analyst for construction. Good morning, I'm Elaine Barrows. I'm the public information officer for District 6.
Once again, Mike Cahill, assistant district engineer maintenance. German Jurek in maintenance. Adrian Wallace, tech 2 at the District 6 lab. Llewellyn Paul from Gallup Project Office 2, engineer 3. Rob Long here, Gallup Project Office 1, tech 2. James Martinez, project manager, Gallup Project Office 1. Danny Dixon, Gallup Project Office 2. Good morning, Nicholas Peterson, Tech 3, office manager for Gallup Project Office 2.
Good morning, Delphine supervisor.
Good morning, Max Barrows, District 6, record chaplain. Martinez, Tech 1. Greg Blanca, Reserve Patrol.
Shannon Reyes, tech supervisor, project office 1.
Morning, Kyle Slim, 6. Morning, Jason Rover, supervisor. Good morning, I'm Mark Craig, I'm supervisor, Dallas.
Anybody else?
Dale Rollins, Bridge Group. Randolph, Bridge.
Thank you.
On behalf of the commission, we are so glad that you're here today. So we can personally say thank you for the great job you do. I always tell people at DOT, there's the people that show up, but at DOT, there's the people that show up to make a difference. So each one of you is making a difference each and every day. And we can't say enough how much we appreciate you. And we can't say enough about how important your jobs are. And you know that people say, well, it's a job, it's not a job. You know, when I was working out there, I was the first one on accidents where someone had passed away, had come up on accidents where there was kids. I mean, it's not a job, it's a passion that you have. So I want to thank each and every one of you for caring, because I know you're not here for the money, I'm being totally honest. A lot of you could make that money somewhere else, but I also know this, you love the job you do, and you develop a family. I always used to say, I spend more time with my family at DOT than I used to spend with my family at home. So, again, you are very much appreciated. And I want to say that yesterday on our trip over here, my wife and I stopped by District 6, and we went in and just to use the restroom. And it was clean in there, everybody was friendly, and I appreciate that. Like I said, it's nice to stop into the district and everybody is friendly, so. With that, I just wanna say on behalf of the commission, thank you for the job you do each and every day.
Thank you. Yes, these are the men and women that makes District 6 successful, so thank you. And thank you, everybody, for coming today. So with that, we can start the presentation.
Hey, I know that guy.
Let me see it. Oh, it's you?
Oh.
Right version. Let's see, about the same, right?
You just need the hat.
I had to get my fire hat on.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's take a quick 5-minute break.
Okay.
5 minutes. And don't take off on me now. This is usually the time that I would sneak out.
Let Lisa speak to those. To let you know that they're doing staff without commissioners, and appreciate the hard work our people are doing here.
Good morning, Chairman. Welcome. Allowing us Commissioner Charles Lundstrom. Commissioner Lundstrom has always been very supportive of our district, and we're very thankful to have him. Our first slide here shows a map of our district.
I'm the District 6 Commissioner here in Cibola, McKinley, and
Yes, if we could go ahead and start with the presentation, thank you. Hopefully this time it'll work.
welcome, everyone. My name is Charles Lundstrom. I'm the District 6 Commissioner for the Department of Transportation here in Cibola, McKinley, and Catron counties. We're getting ready for our commission meeting, and we welcome everybody, the Pueblos, the tribes, everybody, the traveling public, all of our state agencies, anybody else that wants to come and visit with us about what we're doing. Our job is to make sure the roads are safe and we can get to A to B in a safe and wholesome manner and, do the best we can. Winter, spring, fall, whenever you guys are traveling. We're excited to see everyone. I know that there's been lots of projects, but I'll let Lisa speak to those. I know that her staff, I get nothing but compliments about the good work these guys are doing, the men and women of District 6, and I'd just like to let you know that. We appreciate everything that they're doing. Staff, without the staff, we wouldn't do much here as far as, the commissioners and management. We really appreciate the hard work our people are doing here.
Good morning, Chairman Adams and members of Commission. Welcome to District 6. And thank you, Anthony Dimas and McKinley County, for your hospitality and allowing us to use your facility for today's meeting. I'd also like to recognize our Commissioner, Charles Lundstrom. Commissioner Lundstrom has always been very supportive of our district, and we're very thankful to have him. Our first slide here shows a map of our district boundaries, our budget responsibility, and our employee breakdown. We have a total of 251 positions and currently have about a 14% vacancy rate. First, let me introduce my team. Jenny is my administrative assistant. She keeps me in line, which sometimes can be a full-time job. Arif Kazmi is our ADE for engineering support. Mike Vigil is our ADE for maintenance. Our ADE for construction is currently vacant, but if anyone's interested, please let me know and I'll visit with you after this meeting. Diane Delane Barros is our PIO. She is responsible for communicating with the public, news outlets, and she does a great job of highlighting our district with our newsletter in the Fast Lane. Angela Baca is our business manager. So Angela's team consists of Valerie Ramirez, HR supervisor, Sharon Chavez, district administrator, Scott Metzler, our equipment manager, Anna Hamilton, our risk management supervisor, and of course our IT section, which consists of Jeff Coates and Norman Hassel. Angela's section has 41 positions and a current vacancy rate of 18%. So the business manager is primarily responsible for ensuring the compliance with NMAC, NMDOT policies and procedures, state personnel board rules, and overseeing the day-to-day operations of the district. So let me now introduce our construction staff. Our construction section has 51 positions with a current vacancy rate of about 25%. These hardworking individuals take care of multi-million-dollar projects to ensure quality materials and workmanship regardless of staff shortages. They work together to ensure every project is successful from beginning to the finalization of all the paperwork. Stephanie Pata is our acting PM2. In District 6, we have 4 project offices. Robert Darby and David Gonzalez are project managers in Milan. James Martinez is a project manager, and Delphine Mexicano is an acting project manager in Gallup. Robin Eves is our construction management analyst. Rachel Romero is our audit supervisor. Tommy Chavez is our acting district lab supervisor. Our last DLS, Alfonso Lopez, was just promoted to an engineering tech supervisor 2 at Milan under David Gonzalez, so congratulations to him. Now that winter has finally ended, fingers crossed, our construction projects can finally begin again. Here's a list of our active construction projects. We have projects in the Gallup and Grants area, near Zuni and on I-40. Most of our projects have resumed with only 2 that are waiting for materials. Moving on to our completed construction projects. Last year, our construction staff were very busy, and as you can see from our list of construction projects, our projects range from lighting, bridge replacement, rehabilitation, as well as roadway rehabilitation and reconstruction projects. And most of our projects were McKinley, Sandoval, and Cibola counties. Now on to our maintenance section. This is our largest section with 143 positions. Currently, we have an 11% vacancy rate in this section. Our maintenance personnel are those who fight snow in the winter, fill potholes and blade patch, mow, and do all of the operations that keep our roadways maintained. Most of the patrols employ people who live in the communities they serve. They do their best every day for the traveling public. I'll start with John Council, who is our area maintenance superintendent for the Northern Patrols. He has the Rest Area Crew, Cuba, San Isidro, Top of the World, and Buffalo Springs patrols. Then we have Jeremy Madrid, who is our AMS for the Southern Patrols. He has Rema, Quemado, Fence Lake, Gallup, Daddle, and Reserve Patrols. Eugene Hostine is the AMS for the District Crews and 2 patrols. He has the pavement preservation and heavy maintenance crews and the grants and Mesita patrols. And Cynthia Sanchez is our maintenance management analyst. I also want to talk about our contract maintenance projects for fiscal year 22 and 23. These are our completed contract maintenance projects for fiscal year 2022. These projects listed here are the current projects we have planned for fiscal year 2023. Most of these projects are complete, with only the US 491 and US 550 projects needing to be finished up before the end of the fiscal year. With all of the rain and snow we received, the needs definitely are outweighing the contract maintenance funds we have allotted to us. I also wanted to highlight some of the accomplishments that our internal crews have been working on this fiscal year. As you can see, we have blade patching at $924,000, chip seal at $628,000, asphalt paving at $652,000, coal milling and asphalt concrete surfaces at about $1,500, litter pickup at $196,000, and our contract litter pickup at about $200,000. I would also like to introduce our engineering support staff who ensure we continue to plan for future construction projects. They balance the budget with our needs and within the district, which can be a very difficult job. They also take care of our local government projects and provide technical support when needed. Included in the engineering support is our traffic section. Under Arif Kazmi, our AD for engineering support, we have Samantha Leak, the office clerk, Rais Rizvi, who's our technical support engineer, Jason Grover, our traffic engineer, Mike Neely, our engineering tech supervisor for our local government unit. On to our statewide transportation and improvement program, which is fiscally constrained list of federally funded projects that are regionally significant. This table shows our projects for fiscal year 2023 through 2025. Included in this list is the termini, scope of work, county funded amount, and the project's estimated amount. I won't go over all the projects, but if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them at the end of the presentation. This table shows the projects in our STIP for fiscal year 2026. Next is our projects for fiscal year 2027. I would also like to give an update on our House Bill 2 funding, which is additional funds that we have been receiving these last few years. So looking at our House Bill funding for fiscal year 2019, you can see our carbon coal project is completed. Allison Corridor preliminary engineering is under design and scheduled to be complete with design in April of 2024. The I-40 concrete wall barrier project is completed, and the New Mexico bypass is under design and scheduled to be complete in December of 2023. And then also for 2019, we have I-40 project here and US 491, and then a local lead project on First Street in Grants. And all of these projects have been completed. These are the projects for 2020, which again are all completed, ranging from projects on New Mexico 53, I-40, New Mexico 118, US 491, 550, and New Mexico 412. These are the projects for 2021. Our Allison Corridor construction for Phase A is short about $33 million. We only have $9 million currently. New Mexico 547 is a local lead project, and they're getting ready to get started this month. As well as New Mexico 547, milepost 4.1 to 13, that project's been completed. New Mexico 264, 0 to 16.1, that study is complete, and they are now working on a design for mileposts 10 to 14. Moving on to House Bill 2 projects for 2022, New Mexico 371 project is scheduled to be complete June of 2023. US 491 is scheduled completion of May 2023. 124 is complete. New Mexico 53 is complete. And the McKinley County Bridges, which is a local lead project, is scheduled completion in April of 2024. While we still haven't received the final numbers for this year's House Bill 2 funding, the following are preliminary projects that the district may receive funding for. One is New Mexico 602 for pavement preservation, and another is Sacaleras Boulevard, which will be a local lead project for design and construction in grants. Next is our Transportation Project Fund, or TPF. We have the projects listed from fiscal year 2019 to 2020. Again, I won't go over all of the projects, but if you have any questions, I'll answer them as needed. Here are the projects for fiscal year 2022 and fiscal year 2023. Now moving on to our Local Government Road Fund, or LGRF. The LGRF includes the co-op, county arterial, school bus route, and municipal arterial programs. This is a list of the active LGRF projects for fiscal year 2020 and 2021. These are fiscal year 2022 projects and fiscal year 2023 projects. In this section, I would like to discuss what our inventory consists of and their condition. From this slide, you can see that the District 6 has 3,358 lane miles. Of that, 1,279 lane miles are on the National Highway System, or NHS. Also, our district has 2,103 square feet of deck area, and of that, 1,292 square feet are on the NHS. The green indicates good condition, with the yellow showing fair condition and the red indicating poor condition. So as you can see, the majority of our system is fair, then good, with very little in poor condition. To give you a better idea of what roadways are in poor condition, we put together this list of roadways that are currently in poor condition and what the estimated cost would be to reconstruct. This table shows our interstate routes and U.S. routes that are in fair condition. And this table shows the New Mexico routes that are in fair condition. Now for everyone's favorite part of the presentation, employee recognition. Let's take a moment to recognize the employees for the great job they do, and remember that our employees are who make our team successful. Daddle Patrol is our best patrol for 2022. The crew members are Mark Craig, Louis Martinez, Travis Wills, Sherry Beam, and Billy Baca Jr. Daddle is one of our southern patrols. This crew works great together, maintaining their patrol equipment and roadways. This patrol is in rural New Mexico, which has its own challenges with their distance from suppliers and only having 5 crew members. This has never stopped them from achieving their goals for the year. Great job, Daddle.
Well, it's a smaller unit, you know, we know everybody, we work with other patrols, and, well, one of our guys, he's an ex-cop, so we kind of use him to talk to the state police and the local cops, and we've got a rancher that works here, so fence maintenance, dealing with cattle, he's the guy. One of our guys has worked for 20 some odd years on doing construction work, the paving and all that, so it's kind of just everybody gins together and makes it work. We're always out doing something because we've got a lot of miles here, and so it makes it pretty interesting sometimes.
District 6 would like to recognize 2 of our highway heroes. Their immediate response to provide first aid while awaiting responders as a subcontractor employee became pinned between a lay-down screed and a parked roller, resulting in significant injuries to his leg, was noble and commendable. Thank you for inspiring greatness and commitment. Good job, Ken Martinez and Lou Allen Paul. Next, I'd like to congratulate the AMS for Special Crews, the Bridge Crew, Reserve Patrol, and the Heavy Maintenance Crew for winning the best project for 2022 statewide. With the combined efforts, the Bridge Crew, Heavy Maintenance Crew, Reserve Patrol worked to perform repairs to the eroding highway shoulder, fill slope, and pavement through the placement of rock backfill, asphalt patching, and the reconstruction of the drainage curb. Although these were emergency repairs, the project was a cost savings and completed with minimal impacts to the traveling public within a very short time period.
When I first come across it, my first instinct was, I'm gonna be here a while. There was a lot of cleanup and aftermath we had to do. We kind of all got together and he started hauling the material in, what we needed, and the other crews just started dumping it off the side to reinforce the embankment. And
I told my boss that we can't deal with this by ourselves. I said, we need some guys coming in and help us. That's the only way we can do it. So as a teamwork. So when they told me Anthony's coming out and helping me and reserves, they're gonna help me out, that's when I kind of relaxed about it. I wasn't thinking about too much.
All we did was bring him rock. You make it work. It takes a village. It takes a village. And we had good traffic control. They watched for our trucks and the public. They stopped the people that didn't need to be there, and so that we could do our work.
It's our main road. This US 180 is our priority road. It was pretty important to get that one done.
To us, this is natural. You go do your job, get out, do another one.
Like Anthony says, we just do our job. We forget about the old project. We go to the next step and keep on going.
An employee recognition wouldn't be complete without our Employee of the Year and our Crew of the Year. Our 2022 District Employee of the Year is Anthony Waymack of the Rest Area Crew. Anthony provides great customer service by making sure our rest areas are kept clean and are in proper working order. Over the last several months, Anthony has taken on the additional responsibility of leading the litter pickup program for our district. Through the end of October 2022, 3,245 bags of litter were picked up from our roadsides. He is a big reason why this program has produced great results.
The people, they feel better when they go into a rest area and if it's nice and pleasing to the eye or maintained, cleaned. And it makes a big difference on how they look at our state, along with other things like, say, trash along the highway, because that makes a big difference on the public, I would think.
The 2022 District Crew of the Year is our traffic section, which includes Jason Grover, Kyle Slim, and David Garcia. When told that they were recipients of this recognition, they wanted to have this honor given to a crew in operations. They all felt that those crews were more deserving. This just shows how much they care about the people they work with. Each of these employees provide a valuable service which deserves recognition. They will go above and beyond their job duties when emergencies arise. They have delivered message boards after hours. Kyle and David assisted law enforcement with helping an elderly woman and her grandchildren when their car they were towing caught fire. They make a great team and are very deserving of this honor. Great job.
I will say my team and I are honored by the award. We also think that there are multiple crews and sections within the department that are probably just as, if not more, deserving of the award. I think there's a lot of groups within the highway department that are working real hard and going above and beyond every day. And I'm sure I know there's a lot of others who are probably more deserving of the award.
So another year has passed, and again, I am always impressed with the level of effort that my employees go through to get the job done, maintain our roads, construction, maintenance, our district support staff. So thank you everyone for the work that you do. I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Where's the guy that has connections with the police, because I'm going to be headed home soon. So with that, we appreciate you. We appreciate them. And again, this is what it's all about. And when we come to our meetings, it's each and every one of you that we look forward to seeing, and we've asked the DEs that to spare as many people as they can without impacting operations, to bring you here so that, like I said, we can personally say thank you. So with that, thank you, and thank you again, and we'll be seeing each other down the road, I hope.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Adams. I don't know if you would like to take pictures after the meeting or now?
Let's do it let's do it with whoever right away.
Okay.
Okay, and this way we're set to go.
And once we take pictures, I know there's some jackets for the best project.
Let me go ahead and, where's Travis? Travis, you're supposed to remind me. Travis, if you want to come up before we take the pictures and let them.
Mr. Chairman, fellow commissioners, the other districts, thank you for letting me speak real quick. This is basically pertaining to the BEST programs. The BEST project is part of the BEST programs. So basically, these programs, they were established to recognize the outstanding men and women of the New Mexico Department of Transportation for their commitment to the department's core values of safety, accountability, customer service, integrity, teamwork, and of course, communication. The culture that has been established by the employee inspires and encourages the pursuit of team goals, reinforces the purpose of teamwork, and identifies a department who values team achievement. The BEST project program, which this year is District 6, recognizes a district-developed and internally constructed project that is produced within the Department of Transportation. The planning and coordination during this project are examples of the skills and knowledge that the men and women of the department provide on a daily basis. District 6 was recognized with producing 2022's BEST project. We saw the presentation, and I want to thank the communications team for producing that video as well. So with this combined efforts with District 6's bridge, heavy maintenance, and reserve patrol crews, repair work was performed to address the eroding shoulders. Although this was emergency repairs, the project was a cost savings to the department and was completed with minimal impacts to the traveling public in a short period of time. These amazing efforts were accomplished by hard work, teamwork, communication, and of course our incredible men and women of the New Mexico Department of Transportation, District 6. Congratulations on being recognized with the 2022 BEST Project Award. And we have some jackets
Yeah,
here.
show everybody the jacket they'll be receiving.
We're gonna charge you for this one, okay, Lisa? This is yours. These are them.
And you know that I appreciate that you get something for your accomplishment. I wish it was money, but you know what? This is just a little token saying thank you for the work you do and recognizing you. So we appreciate that. I remember when I was out there, when someone said thank you, that made everything worthwhile. That didn't mean I didn't want more money, but it made it worthwhile. So thank you again.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. The program, the BEST programs are a recognition program, and it is fully supported by the commission. It's supported by the executive staff. Thanks a lot to Rick and all of the district engineers that support this program. And of course, our communications director that gives us full support. And of course, you, Mr. Chairman, that started a lot of these programs. So thank you for allowing me to run these programs.
Well, thank you. And with that, we'll move on to pictures.
Come on up, guys. Let's take some
If you guys want to look good in the picture, stand next to me.
Let's do
Stand next to me.
the best crew. The best crew, the crew of the year.
Crew of the year? Come on, guys. Come on, guys.
Traffic.
Let's go right in.
Yeah, let's go in the front.
Yeah.
That's good for pictures.
Did you hear that? He says, I want to look good, look where he came. Hey, I was Secretary's report. Thank you guys for coming.
Check this.
Thank you for coming.
What time did you leave your house yesterday?
I got here at 3, so 10, 9.
And then I'll do the time how long it takes you once we leave here. I'm gonna check my age for you. And then I'll fill out your,
Which one?
my age.
You're the best.
You're the best.
Mr. Chair, thank you. First of all, Secretary Cerna asked me to apologize once again for not being present today. He is participating in a cabinet retreat with the governor, which began yesterday. Hopefully, reaching into our purse and grabbing a few dollar bills while he's up there, but that's where he's been the last couple of days. Once more, we just want to welcome Commissioner. Looking forward to working with you. I'm originally from Clovis, so I'm a District 2 born and raised. I don't know if I got smarter and moved to District 1 or not, but anyway, welcome aboard, and we look forward to working with you. The Secretary did want me to mention that we're trying to coordinate a work session, some type of retreat in the next couple of weeks so that we can get everybody on the same page with roles, responsibilities, communication protocols, the cheat sheet of our acronyms so that you're familiar with what we're doing. So the Secretary is planning on doing that. The priorities over the past couple of months has been vetting of our TPF, our Transportation Project Fund. That's our local government, part of our local government proposals and projects. Several of the districts have already moved through and doing the ranking through the RPOs and MPOs. Next, the districts will receive those rankings from those planning groups and begin their internal rankings as a district. Once that takes place, each district is responsible for submitting those to the general office, where the secretary and a team will review those and finalize project selection. Ideally, the secretary's asked before the next Transportation Commission meeting that each one of you either through participation in those presentations to the district or discussions with their DEs become familiar with those projects. But I can guarantee you the DEs and their staff have been very actively engaged with the locals. But if you have any questions, I would encourage you to reach out to the district engineers. Since we last met, there have been changes to the final outcomes of the 2023 legislative session. As you're likely aware, there were vetoes to House Bill 547, the tax package, resulting in a reduction of the state road fund reviews in the amount of about $72 million. This funding was expected to be a new funding as a result of increased distributions to motor excise tax. The governor has assured Secretary Cerna of her commitment to support the DOT revenue growth within a more comprehensive and responsible tax package. So the secretary has been in contact with the governor about how to move that forward. The secretary's also met with ACNM and Jim and his folks over at, his partners over at ACNM to strategize for the upcoming session. And as was mentioned earlier, we do have this work group coming up on the 24th that I'm sure that will be part of that discussion at least at some point. We're presently working on legislative implementation plan that will keep NMDOT on track for implementing applicable laws passed during this past session. One of the most complicated ones is assuming responsibility of PRC. One of the things that the secretary has done is he's got a contact with Department of Workforce Solutions, and we're going to use one of their project managers who's familiar with this type of strategy and this type of transition from one agency to the other. And we're going to use that project manager to help us internally with that transition, rulemaking. We're evaluating office space. Do we need more positions to fully support that PRC role that we're taking on? And that project manager is going to help DOT staff with that transition. We're also implementing Transportation Commission policy that will allow the secretary to waive fees associated with right-of-way use for broadband. We're properly planning to administer the $50 million in airport infrastructure support. And then we're budgeting the $232 million in Section 9 funding to ensure identified projects are funded. And we met a couple of weeks ago, and we do have a preliminary list of those projects if any of you are interested. There's also some additional funding categories, like for instance, we're setting aside $60 million for the districts. So each one will get additional $10 million towards their budget to do with whatever they see fit. There's some design money, some additional funding set aside for overruns and augmentation to manage our construction projects. So again, we've met as a team, and we've evaluated that $232 million, and we think we have a pretty solid plan on how we can spend that money appropriately. To assist with staff recruitment, you've heard several times today about our vacancy rates, and I'm sure it's a topic of discussion all over. We've created two new staff positions. We have a patrol liaison. His name is Matthew Cordova. Very similar to what Chairman Adams and Jennifer Block used to do when they handled employee relations. The plan is for them to visit patrols and field crews across the state, just to kind of get a feel and make a connection from the executive staff level to those in the field. Not that our district staff aren't doing a good job, but sometimes those folks just need a different avenue. Deputy Secretary Jessica Cooper has met with our training staff. They went out in the field with Matthew, and they spent some time. We've had 3 meetings so far, just to kind of get an idea of what training they need, other things, and we'll continue to do that, but Matthew's taken the lead role on that. With Marissa's group, we have a recruitment marketing person, Don Gray, and his entire strategy and role at this point is to promote our DOT vacancies. So we're working on some marketing campaigns, really trying to illustrate what we as a department do, why we're a great place to work. A lot of times we do behind the scenes, and folks just don't know what we do. So Don's going to work with Marissa and the PIO staff to really get a promotion out there to really justify who we are, what we do, and get some folks to apply for our vacant positions. We are in the process of working with the tourism department to come up with some renewed designs for our Welcome to New Mexico signs. They're in the process, tourism department, are in the process of preparing recommendations that we'll review and discuss. But the secretary hopes that we'll be able to present some of those concepts at the next STC meeting. As many of you are aware, we've had 2 district vacancies. District 1 has been vacant since October when I moved into the deputy secretary job, and then James Gallegos, I started to say resigned, but he retired from District 4 a few weeks ago. Rick's been doing a diligent job getting those positions filled. We did interviews for District 1 last week. We should be able to make that announcement soon, and then we're tentatively scheduled to interview District 4 a week from Tuesday. So we'll get all of those filled certainly by the next commission meeting. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on, Chairman, and this is something that I know hits home for you and certainly District 4. We've already had 3 fires this year in District 4. So one, I want to commend District 4 on their preparedness and being responsive to the assistance that they needed. But more than anything, I want to remind people, just make sure you're keeping your cigarette butts in the car. You're not dragging your chains when you're pulling off for car problems and those kinds of things. Make sure you're doing it safely. The last thing we want to do is experience what we had a couple of years ago, and 3 times already we've had folks get out, and it's a little bit scary.
That little one that started up in Las Tuzas it started off quick. I mean, I was actually up in that area when I saw the burst, and it was just in one day. It took structures, cars, and we were lucky there was no fatalities, but these things just, they hit, and they hit hard. So
just as a reminder, make sure anybody that's traveling, you're just cognizant of what you're doing and where you are. With that, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, those were all of the things that the Secretary asked me to share with you, and I'm happy to stand for any questions.
Thank you for your report, and is there any questions from fellow Commissioners?
Mr. Chair, Trent, when you advertise for your EVs, being in government, you get some pretty good applicants as far as this goes, because it gets back to the vacancy rate. Are we competitive when we look for those types of people? In other words, are we getting 10, 15 people applying for these jobs? Or when I was in government, and anything that was in Las Cruces or where there's a place where people want to live, you get lots of applicants. What does that look like?
Let me just answer that real quick, like, when you're talking engineering, there's a shortage of engineers where we don't have a pool like to pull from or anything, so I think if I'm not mistaken, if you're advertising, you're not getting a whole lot of people, and that's why we have to look at somewhere down the line, doing these internships and these co-ops like we used to, so we can start recruiting. Again, that goes along with recruitment and retention, where we start bringing over engineers, because there's less and less engineers going into civil. There are a lot of them going into other areas. I've talked to about 20 kids now that are headed. Not one of them is going into civil. They're all going into mechanical, or they're going into other parts of engineering. And why? Because that's where the money's at. So, and unless you go into the private sector, you're not gonna make money as the civil. So I think it comes down to that in today's, but right now at DOT, correct me if I'm wrong, we don't have a whole lot of engineers.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, sorry
Yeah.
to interrupt you, but we do have a young engineer in the back building from Mexico State that's working in District 6 this summer. We'd like to keep her, and hopefully we can do that. She has a bright future with us against Cincinnati, so, go ask her. I'm not, no offense to those, but, we should have said.
But I don't know about
we
her
have to do
family,
that.
but I don't know about her family. I've heard a lot.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
No, go Aggies. No, going to New Mexico State, there's, everybody that I went to school with there wanted to be a civil engineer, and they wanted to work for the DOT, and that's where a lot of my friends.
Everybody that I knew that went to New Mexico State wanted to be a local.
Why don't you introduce our intern? Sure. All right, she's in District 6, so that's good.
We're in the right colors.
Well, I always talk about generations of families here at DOT, and in fact now, since when I started, which was 100 years ago, I'm seeing children and grandchildren of employees that I started with, and that's good to see. And we're happy that you're looking at DOT. We hope to get you on board. And I just want to say that I know we're trying, but we got to try harder, because I'm telling you that we're not getting a whole lot of engineers into DOT. And we're losing, like I said, I've talked to all of them, and they haven't given me a reason why they're not going into civil. But they see the money. I mean, Sandia, Kirtland, all those places, recruiting them, Los Alamos. And so we gotta figure this thing out, because like I said, that's why, Charles, there's not a whole lot of.
Well, one thing, Mr. Chair, that we're doing, at least over the course of the summer, and maybe Justin can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're bringing 8 engineers that they've been recruiting at, and we've received applications for. And I think those 8 engineers are gonna be working for us, or engineering students are gonna be working for us through the summer to try to, get them encouraged in what we do. The other thing that the secretary is throwing around is, a lot of times our summer hires, they come and they work for the summer and then they go back to school, but they may have days that they don't have class and those kinds of things. So we're looking at options where maybe they can even work for us for 1 day a week, or 10 or 15 hours a week, where they can continue to be interested in what we do day to day. So a lot of times, if they're not full-time or they're not summer hires, we're not able to keep them on. So during the course of their career, we're hoping we can find some options where they can just come out even part-time Not necessarily to get a whole lot of work done, because it's hard to get anything done in, 8 or 10
No, but
hours
so
a
that
week.
they can get a
but
feel for
keep
us
them
and-
interested in what we do.
And they can, yeah,
Right,
and they can say, hey, this is what I wanna do.
right.
And I think somewhere down the line, we gotta start going into, we have to start going into the middle schools, because that's where they're jumping into high school, and then by high school, they're already making up their mind as far as engineering, what they wanna do.
And Mr. Chair, I'll tell you, at least coming from District 1, my wife's a teacher, and she's at a magnet school who has a STEM program. And we've been asked several times as engineers to go in. We bring some of our maintenance folks with their equipment. We let them sit on the equipment, and it's middle school. So I think we're starting to get that message out, recognizing that we need to get them a little bit younger. But I can tell you the districts are very involved at that middle age group. We need to find a way to maintain that interest through their middle school and high school career, so that when they go to school, they have a good idea of where they're going, and we've already got their foot in the door when they come and work for us.
Thank you. Yeah, we need to look at some, like a mentoring program. But thank you for that. Commissioner, any other
No,
questions?
thank you guys, I appreciate that.
Okay, with that, we thank you for your report, and, keep up the good work.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Our partner, let's talk about partnerships from FHWA. Cindy, she's not with us today, so we will go ahead and skip on to finance reports, and we'll go on to John Tennyson, operating budget. Yeah, did it turn green? Yeah, so it's off.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, DOT Commission. My name is John Tennyson. I'm the Budget Director for the NMDOT, and I'll be going over the FY24 operating budget with you guys this morning. Okay, so if you have the next slide. Okay. All right, so first off, I'd just like to thank my budget team for putting this all together. It's usually a big process that we got to do, starting with the request, going through negotiations with DFA and LFC, and then finally coming out with what's in House Bill 2, signed by the governor. So just a definite big thanks to my team, and especially to the leadership of my supervisor, Mallory Manzanares. And with that, we can go into the budget. So right now, what we're looking at right now is in column A, you'll see that was the FY24 budget request. That's what we went in with last September. That's what was turned in. And then through legislation and what was signed in House Bill 2, you'll see that is what is in column B for the approved budget. And that's what we will be going forward with on July 1 of this upcoming fiscal year. So today, I will focus on column B. You'll see right there in the expenditures column, category 200, we will go in with $215 million for our salaries and benefits. It's about a $12 million change from our request to our operating budget. For contractual, we will go in with 607, close to 608 million. It's about a $34 million change from our request to our operating budget. In other services, we will be going in with 448 million. It's about a $40 million difference there from our request to our operating budget. So overall, we'll be looking at about close to $1.3 billion budget this upcoming fiscal year. It's about a difference of about $87.5 million that we'll see from the request now to the operating budget. Further down, you'll see in our revenues portion, basically the appropriation is supported by $548.5 million of state road fund monies, $97.2 million of restricted funds, $10.3 million of transfers from Tax and Rev and Department of Finance and Administration, $534 million, which will come from our federal revenue. In the program budgets, we will see about $801 million for project design and construction, which is our P562 program, $325.6 million, which is our Highway Operations Program, P563, $58.9 million in business support, which is our P564 program, and about $85.8 million in our modal programs. So just to kind of give you an update, which I kind of did a little bit earlier, but comparing the request to the operating budget, our state revenue increased by $3.2 million. Our restricted revenue increased by $918,000. Our other revenue increased by $2 million. State road and restricted fund balance, we added $81.2 million. Our federal revenue increased by $64,000. And this year, our career employees will receive a minimum of the 6% salary increase, which was implemented in legislation. And I can go into further detail by program if you need to see fit. If not, I respectfully ask for your approval of the FY24 budget.
Mr. Doolittle, what is your recommendation?
Mr. Chair, I would recommend approval.
You've heard the recommendation from Mr. Doolittle. What is the pleasure of the commission? Do I have a motion to approve the FY24 operating budget?
Chair, I make that motion, we accept the FY24.
I have a motion by Commissioner Lundstrom. I have a second by Commissioner Taylor. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Commission, thank you guys
Okay.
very much.
Now we go on to Clarissa. How are you? Good.
So, good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of commission. I'm here today to seek approval for our FY24 Local Government Road Fund Program. If you turn to page 120 of your booklet, you'll see a list of projects that were recommended for FY24. So just a background, our Local Government Road Fund was a designated fund. It has a 75-25 match. The program was created to provide funding to local entities for projects where they take the lead in developing and contracting construction and maintenance projects. This year, our budget was $27,978,000, and it'll be distributed between our 4 programs as follows. Our county arterial program will get $6,295,000. Our cooperative program, $10,168,000. Our school bus routes, $3,874,000, and our municipal arterial program will have $6,142,000. With that, I stand for any questions.
Commissioners, you've had a chance to review it. And is there any questions, comments? With that, what is your recommendation, Mr. Doolittle?
Mr. Chair, I recommend approval.
We have a recommendation from Deputy Secretary Doolittle to approve the action item FY24 Local Government Road Fund. What is the pleasure of the commission?
So moved.
So moved by Commissioner Taylor.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Chenoweth. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. It's always good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
We're gonna go on to number 13. Action item, approval and adoption of resolution 2023-21 with, oh no, it's, I'm sorry.
Skip me.
I'm sorry.
How
Action item,
rude.
general services. It's that time of the meeting, you know? Action, and it's good to see you.
Yes, same here. Good
I
morning,
asked, I just want you to know I asked for you because I hadn't seen you.
I
until
was in
saw
the
you.
other room.
Okay.
I was listening. Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. I do want to start off with my joke of the day.
Okay.
What kind of exercise do lazy people do? Diddly squats. Okay.
Did you say exercise or extra fries?
I'm here today to ask for a FY23 budget increase. This is because in House Bill 2 and this past legislation, House Bill 2 has, let me start over. This budget increase is authority for other finances uses for the business support in the amount of $6 million or $5.7 million. This is designated in House Bill 2. The funds are to be transferred to GSD to help address their deficit in insurance. So the department was obligated to pay this portion. It's about 10% of the total cost that GSD is experiencing right now. So this will go out in FY '23.
But we're good to go on everything now.
Unfortunately, this is something that we had not covered. We do have the means to pay for it. And like I say, it is in House Bill 2, so we're obligated to do it. But what will happen is, since we have a vacancy savings about $10 million, this will kind of,
Offset it.
yeah.
Okay,
So we, yeah.
okay.
So that, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, I respectfully ask for your approval.
You've had a chance to review it. Deputy Secretary Doolittle,
Mr. Chair, I would recommend approval.
we have a recommendation from the Secretary, Deputy Secretary. Do I have a motion to approve the action item, General Services Department transfer?
So moved.
So moved by Commissioner Chenoweth. Second by Commissioner Lundstrom. All in favor? Opposed? Carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mallory, good to see you. Rick, you got the JAL.
Yes, sir.
Annual JAL agreement.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Rick Padilla, Executive Director. Before I get started, Mr. Chairman, please I'd ask you just to excuse my attire this morning. I left the house this morning, grabbed the coffee, and forgot the tie. I do apologize for missing the reception last night. I rarely miss those, but my daughter had her robing ceremony for high school and received her cords for athletics and academics and things like that. So I hated to miss it, but I was attending that last night.
Just know one thing is that's very understandable, because I've always said this: business is business, work is work, but family comes first. So don't even worry about it.
Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate that. I can tell you that she is going to attend the best university in this state. As far as we're concerned, she's headed down to New Mexico State after graduation.
Okay.
So we're in good shape. Yeah, go ahead. Mr. Chairman, I'm here this morning to ask you for your approval for extending the term of the use of the JAL route as a temporary negotiated alternate southern whip route. Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Tonjes, for your information, Commission has the sole authority to allow and approve the shipment of whip on alternate routes other than the ones already identified in the law, which are obviously whip routes, US 285 and things like that. So, Mr. Chairman, on April 3rd, 2023, the DOE CBFO, which is the Carlsbad Field Office, requested NMDOT extend the term of use of the temporary negotiated alternate southern whip route, which we call the JAL route, beyond the termination date of June 30, 2023, established by the STC in resolution number 2022-08 back in November until June 30 of 2024. As justification for continued use of the JAL route, instead of the existing state designated southern whip route, which is US 285 to US 62-180, DOE CBFO identifies several adverse conditions to whip transportation safety. These conditions include construction projects, including major reconstruction of US 62-180, Carlsbad East Green Street, bridge over the Pecos River, and heavy oil field traffic along US 285 and National Parks Highway. Not to mention the condition of US 285 in Texas as well, Mr. Chairman. NMDOT recommends the STC extend the term of the JAL route and allow DOE CBFO the continued use of the JAL route as a temporary negotiated alternate southern whip route until December 31st, 2023, unless terminated earlier by notice. So, Mr. Chairman, with that, I do ask for your approval.
Any other comments, questions from commissioners? If not, you've had a chance to review it. Deputy Secretary Doolittle, what is your recommendation?
Mr. Chair, I would recommend approval.
We have a recommendation for approval for action item, approval and adoption of resolution 2023-01, May, extending the term of use of the JAL route as a temporary negotiated alternate southern whip route. Do I have a motion to approve? We have a motion for approval from Commissioner Tonjes. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Taylor. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That carries unanimously. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Okay. We will now go on to action item And I want to apologize to the family. If we would have known that, that you were here, we would have moved that up on the agenda, but once that, we had already approved the agenda, we couldn't do anything, so our apologies from the commission. Okay, so we're gonna move on to the proposed dedication of the I-10, I-25 interchange in Santa Ana County as the SFC Antonio Ray Rod Rodriguez Memorial Interchange.
Mr. Chair, so I will very briefly update you all. As if you recall, the last meeting, I presented you all the brief. I presented you all a drawing of the proposed sign, the termini of the proposed dedication. But ultimately, what we're asking for is the dedication of I-10 eastbound from milepost 143.69 to milepost 145.43. Interstate 10 westbound from milepost 145.43 to milepost 143.69. And Interstate 25 from milepost 0 to milepost 0.19 in Doña County, otherwise known as the I-10, I-25 interchange, is the SFS Antonio Ray Rod Rodriguez Memorial Interchange. And Mr. Chair, if you'll allow, I'm not going to read through the background because a lot of the things that are in there are included in the resolution. But if you'll allow, what I'd like is for Lupe and Javier and Christopher to come up and read the resolution into record and provide any comments to the commission,
By all means.
if you would allow.
By all means. Well, welcome to our commission meeting, and thank you for being here today. And I know you're here on, for a special cause, and we'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, sir. Whereas on May 6th, 2022, Guadalupe Rodriguez Jaramillo, president of the Sergeant First Class Antonio Rey Rod Rodriguez Foundation, met with Lieutenant Governor Howie Morales and certain executive staff members of the New Mexico Department of Transportation to formally request, on behalf of the foundation, the dedication of the I-10, I-25 interchange in memory of the United States Army for Sergeant First Class Antonio Rey Rod Rodriguez. And whereas Antonio Rey Rodriguez was born in Las Cruces, New Mexico on July 26, 1991, and whereas Antonio Rey Rodriguez joined the United States Army in 2009 and attended one-station unit training at Fort Benning, Georgia. After completing OUST, he attended the Basic Airborne Course and the Ranger Assessment and Selection Program. He was then assigned to the 3rd Ranger Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment. In June 2018, Sergeant First Class Rodriguez voluntarily reclassified as a cryptologic linguist Spanish, and whereas Sergeant First Class Rodriguez deployed 8 times with the 3rd Ranger Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment, and twice with the 7th Special Forces Group Airborne in support of Operation Freedom's Sentinel, and whereas on February 8, 2020, Sergeant First Class Rodriguez was killed in action while conducting combat operations in the Shizar district of Nangarhar province, Afghanistan. And whereas in recognition of his exemplary service to the United States Army, Sergeant First Class Rodriguez received numerous medals and awards in recognition of his exemplary service, including the Bronze Star Medal, Joint Service Commendation Medal, Army Commendation Medal, Army Achievement Medal, Army Good Conduct Medal, National Defense Service Medal, Afghanistan Campaign Medal, Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, Non-Commissioned Officer Professional Development Ribbon, Army Service Ribbon, Overseas Service Ribbon, NATO Medal, Ranger Tab, Combat Infantry Badge, Expert Infantryman Badge, and the Parachutist Badge. He was posthumously awarded the Combat Action Badge, Bronze Star Medal, Purple Heart, and whereas Sergeant First Class Rodriguez's death serves as a reminder of the commitment and sacrifice that soldiers from New Mexico make every day in the name of duty and service to their state and country, and whereas Sergeant First Class Rodriguez was an exemplary citizen of the city of Las Cruces, and by the dedication he'd exhibited as a soldier, he continues to be an inspiration to other citizens of Las Cruces. And whereas Sergeant First Class Rodriguez served his state and his country in an exceptional manner and will long be remembered for his patriotism, bravery, dedication, and distinguished service. It is therefore fitting that there be a permanent reminder of his valor and contribution to the city of Las Cruces and the state of New Mexico. And whereas the New Mexico State Transportation Commission wishes to create a permanent reminder to honor Sergeant First Class Rodriguez and to memorialize the sacrifice he made in service to the United States and the state of New Mexico, and now therefore it be resolved that the New Mexico State Transportation Commission approves the dedication of Interstate 10 eastbound from milepost 143.69 to milepost 145.43, Interstate 10 westbound from milepost 145.43 to milepost 143.69, and Interstate 25 from milepost 0 to milepost 0.19 in Doñana County, I-25, I-10 interchange, and it shall be hereafter be known as the Sergeant First Class Antonio Rey Rod Rodriguez Memorial Interchange, and be it further resolved that the New Mexico State Transportation Commission hereby directs the NMDOT to manufacture and install in accordance with the current edition of the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, the appropriate signage for the Sergeant First Class Antonio Rey Rod Rodriguez Memorial Interchange, and thereafter maintained such signage, and be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be transmitted to the Sergeant First Class Antonio Rey Rod Rodriguez Foundation.
Chairman, Commissioners, New Mexico DOT staff, very emotional day for us, right? From the resolution and briefing that was given on February 8th of 2020, our world was basically changed forever. And here we are 3 years plus later, still trying to do good things for a very special young man. Walking into this room, we've been here for a few hours now, started with the meeting. Me being a board member for this foundation, a former Artesia Bulldog, 1990, a former NMSU Aggie, 1996, civil engineer. I sense, and we sense, the pride in this state. This is why we're here. This young man at 28 lost his life serving on his 10th appointment. Very, very emotional for us and this family. Thank you for taking the time to have us up here and represent something that a lot of us really some days take it for granted, but to all the men and women that have served in this room or in this state, every one of them is very special. This young man was no different. That is why we are here for this, to remind people what he did to step up and serve this country. That interchange to us is a huge thing, but still a very small token of things we want to do in his name, to remind people of how special he was. Born and raised in Las Cruces, New Mexico, in the state of New Mexico. We remain, just like you, very proud of the state. Though we may not live here anymore, we live in Texas now. We still come back every year to do good things in his name, including his endowed scholarship at NMSU, including his golf tournament that we have this coming Friday, his second annual, to remind people of that special name and most importantly of where he came from, New Mexico. Thank you.
I just want to say at this point, on behalf of the commission, words cannot even express our sorrow and our condolences go out to you and your family. Words can't even describe what he meant, and for him serving in the military and the things that he accomplished. What you read there is like a movie, like something that you would see, and I don't know how we would, there's no words to express our gratitude for his service and our condolences for your loss. So we want to thank you for being here today. It's times like this that I feel honored to be up here, to be in a position to honor somebody that deserves to be honored. And so I just want to say that he was a special person and beyond.
Yes, sir. I just want to make sure that my boy gives more than what they took from me. That my boy's not here to give, and my boy gave up into his life. But I'm his mother, and I carried him first. And I'm going to carry him now, and I'm going to make sure that my son gives through his scholarship and through our nonprofit. And every time people pass, if you approve our sign, that they know that somewhere there's a soldier who paid the price for us to have this beautiful state and this beautiful country and this freedom.
We appreciate that so very much.
Thank you for your time.
Yes.
Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, Chairman.
Did anyone else want to speak?
This is my youngest son, my only son left.
I think your mom said it all. I mean, like I said, words can't even express our gratitude for his service, and we're honored.
And thank you, Trent Little, for allowing us to work with him this last year. It's taken a year to get here. And even though when we got this in motion, the idea of doing something in his name started in 2020 when we lost him. You know, it's a name, but to us, it's much more than that. And it's constantly reminding ourselves to continue to say that name like he's here today. We don't think about him being gone. We think about him still being with his family, still present. And this is one way to remind people he's still here. He is still here. So thank you again.
No, thank you. You have anything else, Trent?
Mr. Chair, just real briefly, I again want to share my appreciation, one for Antonio's service, but also thank you for your patience and your cooperation as we work through this. I was part of the initial meeting with Lieutenant Governor a year ago, almost to the day. It was at the golf tournament, just purely by coincidence, and we've got a lot of things done in the last year. So again, I appreciate your patience working with us through this resolution. Mr. Chair, the other thing I wanted to make very clear is we do have a dedication ceremony scheduled for Saturday, but all of my conversations with the family and with the foundation is it's all contingent on the actions today. It just happened to coincide with their second annual golf tournament, so he'll have some of his military mates there. We've made arrangements from some of the folks from White Sands Missile Range to come out. But I want to be very clear that all of that is contingent on the action that takes place today. But the timing is right for us to go ahead and make moves for that to take place. The other thing that I wanted to share with you all.
Well, I wouldn't share that yet.
No?
No, just leave it there, and then let's get to business, and then we can all go up there and see where we're at.
Okay.
Okay, and so with that, I just want you to know that I had many conversations with Trent, and Trent was very adamant about getting this done. He told me all the conversations and he had with you, and so I know that his heart was in it, and he worked hard at it. So we even had a conversation just about within the last 3 weeks, I think, where we met up. So everybody's had a chance to review it, and the reason I just told you to hold off on that is because let's get where we need to get, and that is your recommendation, Mr. Doolittle?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Do all of our fellow commissioners have had a chance to review it? So before I ask for action on the recommendation, is there any questions? Is there any comments? Is there anything else from my fellow commissioners? I will, and I want you to follow me on this to make sure that I'm putting it correctly, okay? Do I have a motion to dedicate, on the dedication of the I-10, I-25 interchange in Doña Ana County, known as the Sergeant First Class Antonio Ray Rod Rodriguez Memorial Interchange, dedicating Interstate 10 eastbound from milepost 143.69 to milepost 145.43, Interstate 10 westbound from milepost 145.43 to milepost 143.69, and Interstate 25 from milepost 0 to milepost 0.19 in Doña Ana County as the Sergeant First Class Antonio Ray Rod Rodriguez Memorial Interchange. Good? I want that because that's part of the record, so I want to make sure I put it all right.
Yes, Mr. Chair, that's correct.
Okay, so do I have a motion?
I make that motion.
Okay,
I'll
you
second that
guys can't
motion.
fight over this.
No.
I have a motion from Commissioner Lundstrom. Do I have a second?
second that
I have a second from Commissioner Chenoweth. I want to do a roll call vote on this. Rashawn, we'll do a roll call vote.
Commissioner Sanchez?
Yes.
Commissioner Chenoweth?
Yes.
Chairman Adams?
With honor and gratitude, yes.
Commissioner Taylor?
Absolutely.
Commissioner Lundstrom?
Yes. Now you can present the sign. It carries unanimously. Yes. Okay, you let me know what it is and we'll rescind it. Okay, so you tell me which ones and I'll read them into the record. Okay, if you can read it into the record, and, it's being read into the record as part of the motion, and so we'll, and as part of the approval.
We approve the resolve that the New Mexico State Transportation Commission hereby directs the NMDOT to manufacture and install and purchase third edition of the manual on uniform traffic control devices, the appropriate signage for the SFC, Antonio Ray Rod Rodriguez Memorial Interchange, and thereafter maintain such signage, and we approve the resolve that a copy of the resolution be transmitted to the SFC Antonio Ray Rodriguez Foundation.
Okay. And that will go into the motion. Let's just go do it again on what he said and what I said. Do I have a motion again? We have a motion based on that from Commissioner Lundstrom, a second from Commissioner Chenoweth, and we'll do one more roll call. I just want to make sure everything's into that.
Commissioner Sanchez?
Proudly, yes.
Commissioner Chenoweth?
Yes.
Chairman Adams?
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor?
Yes.
Commissioner Lundstrom?
It carries unanimously. Now you can get that sign from the side.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So what I have here is the full-size signs have already been installed on the interstate. They are bagged at this point pending the approval from commission, which we just received, and the dedication will do a formal reveal. But because they are rather large, we had printed out for presentation today, for reveal on Saturday, and for you all to keep for part of the foundation. This is an exact replica of what the sign looks like that's currently at those 3 locations. As part of the approved resolution, I also have an original signed copy of the resolution that I will send with you today. But Mr. Chair, if you would allow, I would like a photo opportunity with the commissioners and with the family to take a picture of this
If they
sign.
would allow us to, we would be more than proud to. Okay. wish you the best on your event this weekend. Okay. Yeah. My apologies, and I know, because we just barely got to this today, that I won't be able to be there, but I'll tell you that all of us will be there in prayer. On thoughts, okay. With that, we're gonna move on to the action item, amend current rule. Pedro?
Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, my name is Pedro Rael, the Director of the Aviation Division. And this item seeks to get your permission in order to amend the rule that's necessary in order to put into effect Senate Bill 433, which has to do with the size of aircraft for the Aviation Division. We have the RACE program, which is the Rural Air Service Enhancement Program in the state of New Mexico. The original size of aircraft was 9. The year after that, the size of the aircraft was expanded to 30. And then this year, the legislature changed that statute to allow as large as 100 passenger jets to be used if a city applies for it and gets a grant for the air services program. So that is the request that we're making. It is an action item, and I want to tell the commission very quickly, because we never get to talk about the kinds of things that are accomplished by New Mexico Aviation Division, NMDOT. We did get an appropriation from the legislature for airports in New Mexico. There's 50 of them, of $55 million. And we also got an increase for the Aviation Division to conduct its own items as well for, in addition, $3 million increase for the foreseeable future. So with that, I would appreciate that you allow us to amend the rule that will implement the statute allowing the increase in airplane size to 100 passengers. And if you have any questions, I stand ready to answer them.
Deputy Secretary Doolittle.
Mr. Chair, I would recommend approval.
Mr. Chair, so moved. So, we have a recommendation, we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Taylor. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a second by Commissioner Chenoweth. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr.
Carries
Chairman. Thank you,
unanimously.
Commissioners.
Go on to letter D, action item, request to enter into road transfer agreement with the city of Socorro. Adam. Aaron.
Chairman Adams and Commissioners, this is a request to enter into a road transfer agreement with the city of Socorro for the I-25 business loop, also known as California Street. On March 30th, I briefed the commission on the road transfer agreement between the city of Socorro and District 1. The transfer involves conveying the jurisdiction of California Street, I-25 Business Loop 12, over to, and maintenance responsibilities over to the city of Socorro. So at this time, I'm requesting your approval.
Okay, any questions, comments? Deputy Secretary Doolittle.
Mr. Chair, this is something that Aaron and I have been working on, even as District 1, for many, many, many years. It'll greatly reduce our responsibility, and I recommend approval for this action item.
You heard the recommendation from Deputy Secretary Doolittle. Do I have a motion? We have a motion from Commissioner Taylor. Do I have a second? Second from Commissioner Tonjes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, is there any other body or any other business to come before this Transportation Commission? If not, do I have a motion at approximately 11:46 to adjourn this meeting?
I will make that motion.
We have a motion from Commissioner Chenoweth, a second from Commissioner Lundstrom. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that always carries unanimously, so.